Do you think it's generally better to see the riskier stuff out there? I've seen so many of those videos that I checked the crosswalk 3 times both ways. When we were making season 1, we were very aware that it was like the Pim and Charlie season. But then seeing people saying, oh, Alan's my favorite character, we want more episodes with him. I think it's good to get that feedback.
When you're thinking about problems that you have, problems that you see cross-culturally, why do you filter them through humans have been around for 200,000 years?
I know my great aunt Ruth did this.
Wait! I just need to.
Yeah.
Your great aunt Ruth was fearful of ptomaine poisoning. Is that this? Because that as a title, that is the funniest. That should be a book.
We're the 3 most lovable guys since Lemon
I've been
Party.
saying that since the fucking start of this podcast. Go to tomatoparty.com. You're gonna find the 3 of us in a compromising position.
Hey, welcome to the Create Unknown, the home of Make Something Mean Something. It is Tuesday, TCU's Day. We're here live on Discord every 6 p.m. Eastern. Join us. We have an amazing episode. One we've been, looking forward to for 7 months now. Let's get right into it. I'm Kevin Lieber, and with me as always is Matthew Tabor.
Yeah, a couple things real quick. Thanks to everybody who's come out for the live show tonight. There are a whole lot of people who have supported this podcast for years now. We've got some new ones like Weezer, Super Bros, and Penny Peddler who we're happy to have on board. If you want to support the show, the link's in the description. Hang out on Discord and tell us about your projects. We've got a great group in there. And I also want to say thanks to Maingear. Anyone who has listened to this show for a while understands how particular Kevin and I are about partnering with people and companies. It's extremely important to us that they have the same mindset and commit to a set of foundational values that fuel creative production. That is not everybody. It's hard to find. And on the PC front, that's Maingear, who also happens to crush it with gaming. Throughout the rest of the year, I'm going to be documenting my process of creating a podcast studio / streaming room centered on one of Maingear's Vibe desktops. You need to see these things, Kevin. They look incredible. Bit of a change from my commitment to early 1900s decor, but this thing flies. And I'm excited to show week by week how it's actually happening. So check out Maingear, check out the Vibe line. The performance to price ratio is outstanding. And we're happy to have them be part of the Create Unknown. And if you've been in the Discord lately, you'll know that there are quite a few stories to be told on stream, just like the 20-minute treat the early birds got tonight.
Yeah, some good stories that will never see the light of day, and we're only for the ears of those who are joining us live. So, those who are here right now got a little bit of a pregame treat.
Yes, you did.
I have, I have questions kind of all over the map, but I figure, Zach, that we'd start with an easy one. When we last spoke with you, Smiling Friends really had just dropped. It hadn't come out yet on HBO Max. That was still yet to come. You've had some time to sort of digest and see what the response has been to the show. Has it been anything surprising to you so far about, now that you're a little bit removed from the big splash back in January, from how people responded to Smiling Friends?
Yeah, I mean, I would say number one, you hope people are going to like it and you hope people are going to enjoy it. I was just surprised at the amount of people that reacted to it at all. I know that sounds maybe a little bit fucking stupid, but, when you put something out, you kind of hope for the best. But yeah, I was just shocked by the amount of fan art and just people talking about it. All the drawings of the characters fucking each other and sucking each other. Just the whole basket. You know what I mean? The whole operation. I seriously,
it's just like the Vsauce fandom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
very similar.
I'm behind
very
most
similar.
of that, by the way. Just so you guys know, I'm drawing most of that shit. But yeah, no, just I would say just my short answer is just the amount, the pure volume of it. Like you hope for that to be the case, but and obviously there was a bigger kind of surge at the very beginning, like right when it came out, and especially when it went on HBO Max, but people just still talking about it now. If you think about it, we only did 8 episodes that are 11 minutes each. And really it was 7 new episodes in 2022, so that are 8 minutes each, or 11 minutes each. So it was only like the length of a movie or something. So for people to be, it's not like a show where like one season is, 20 episodes that are all half hour each where people can really rewatch it. So the people that are fans of it and are rewatching it like, multiple times. I've seen people say like, I'm on my 4th or 5th rewatch, which is, great to me because, we kind of did build it like that. We built it out to hopefully be rewatchable like a YouTube video or something, but a longer form one.
Mm-hmm. Have there been any celebrities reaching out that you didn't expect? Obama, how does he like the show?
Obama did hit
Jamie
me up.
Kennedy.
Obama knew Obama before all this anyways. Obama did hit me up. I was, all the ex-presidents did, every single one, even, the guy in the White House now. So all of them hit me up and they were all praising it.
Jimmy Carter?
Jimmy Carter, he put down the peanut farm for just 1 second. He stopped building houses with a giant bruise on his head just to call me. And I said, hey, look, you're getting rid of guinea worm. You're building those houses, even though you're fucking 99. Put the phone down. He said, no, I don't care. Fuck these houses. I care more about your show. I said, I don't care, man. That's more important. And I wrestled him back into just kind of, doing what he was doing, but he was nice enough. In terms of action, in terms of back in reality in real life, that's a good question. I feel like there was a few people, there was maybe 2 or 3 people where I was like, that person has seen it. That's crazy. But my answer sucks because I can't remember who they were. So that's a good answer. That's always nice.
I was hoping you would name drop somebody really random, like Heather Locklear just loves Smiling Friends.
I feel like, this is not as cool. In fact, this is almost lame, but we were hearing just through Michael telling me stuff and through us just hearing from people that, people in Adult Swim liked it, but we were hearing, and again, this is totally like grain of salt, but we were hearing right when it came out, there were people from other networks, like other executives from other places that were like, we need a show in that vein. So, but I mean, what the fuck does that mean? That's probably just niceties being handed out. But, I swear, if I can think of it, I will bring it up later, but I cannot remember right now. There was definitely one person that I was super excited about having seen it, but I can't remember it because it was like 8 months ago, and we're in the middle of season 2 right now, and my brain's just kind of been spaghettified by that. So that's my answer. That's my
It
awesome
was Stone
answer.
Cold Steve Austin, wasn't it?
It was Stone Cold. You fucking took the words right out of my mouth.
Just chugging Coors Light, watching Smiling Friends.
Yeah.
Who's somebody who hasn't seen the show? It just hasn't popped on their radar, but you desperately wish could. Like anybody in the world who you would want to sit
Putin
down
or Kim
and watch.
Jong-un. I want some, because here's my point.
Why do you think they haven't seen it? Why do you think that isn't the cause of all the troubles?
I think old Vladdy's probably a little bit more preoccupied these days and flipping through HBO Max, but I could be wrong. The guy needs a break every once in a while.
You know what they found on Bin Laden's computer?
I know.
Like on
that's
that
what
hard
I'm
drive.
saying.
All
That's
sorts of
exactly
shit
what
like
I mean.
that.
So
Yeah.
I would hope.
Wait, what was on Bin Laden's computer?
Ants, the movie
God.
Ants with Woody Allen, *1, Naruto. That's all real. By the way.
A bunch of anime stuff.
Yeah, bunch of anime shit. So he was just sitting there like sipping a juice box watching Ants. Like what? I just
sipping a juice box.
Yeah. I mean, what else would you do while watching Ants? Like
a Capri Sun.
Oh no, that's the wrong. You sip a Capri Sun when you're watching like Saving Private Ryan or like Schindler's List, something like heavy like that. That's a Capri Sun movie. Ants
Wait, you're like a sommelier for juice boxes and movies?
Oh yeah, I've got a whole system figured out. I mean, it would take hours if I went into it. But genuinely though, if I really could pick anybody on the planet, it would be some weird. I just would want to see the little cartoon characters like reflecting in their eyeball. What would they think of that? It would be so far removed from they'd probably get pissed off at it, honestly. They just would be like, get this out of, fuck this. They'd probably smash the screen or something. Maybe you think, it's like when people saw the train coming at him in like 1900 in the video, maybe he'd get freaked out by it because he think it's real. But yeah, I mean, here, I'm going to flip this back to you guys. If you guys could show your podcast to anybody, force someone to listen to your podcast, who would it be?
Oh, podcast? I know who should watch Vsauce 2 videos, and that's Ukraine, because the Ukrainian government said that they're going to fully automate, with AI, fully automate their justice system by 2030.
That's not a good idea.
Generally not. None of that stuff works, and a lot of the videos are about that. But Kevin, who should listen to the podcast?
I don't know. My celebrity, I'm not big on celebrities in general. Like, I don't really care, except for Shaq. I just really like Shaq.
Oh,
that's a
Like
good
I
answer.
love the fact that Shaq does commercials for everything. I really like that. Like it doesn't matter what the product
Yeah, it
is.
does.
Shaq is on board to endorse that thing, whether it's icy hot patches or the general insurance or inkjet refillable inkjet printers. Like Shaq is on board with that, and there's something that I find very endearing about that. He just seems like the most chill person on planet Earth. Like anybody, like his agent walks up to him with any opportunity, and Shaq's just like, sure, yeah, let's do it. That sounds
complain
great.
about anything.
No.
Yeah, he doesn't. Like LeBron James is talking about, things like every day it's a new thing on Twitter, whatever. Shaq's just like making jokes and enjoying life.
He's
Selling
vibing.
into printer ink. I mean, that's a nice life at that point.
Yeah.
You're not getting your panties up in a twist over some shit that's happening on Twitter. It doesn't matter that everyone's going to forget about it. He's selling whatever they tell him to sell. And there's something nice about that in a way.
Yeah. It just seems like a go with the flow giant. Like a go with the flow giant. It's such a great kind of juxtaposition of
He's a jolly giant. He's a jolly hearted giant. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if he was a pissed off giant, you wouldn't want to show him the podcast because he might get, pissed off or something. And he's a giant, so he could, smash your village. He could lift up the water supply thing and fucking drink out of that like it's a big cup. A lot of shit could happen.
Right.
So there's a lot of good reasons why you'd want to be on the side of a good giant, to battle the bad giants. But,
yeah,
yeah,
he could just snap us in half and then drink our blood, just guzzle our blood.
Anything you wanted, anything
Easily.
your mind can imagine. Yeah, anything your mind can imagine a giant doing, he would fucking do it. So all the more reason.
But he doesn't.
Yeah. One thing I just thought of that has nothing to do with anything is, what I really like is when there are commercials for things that you don't think of as needing a commercial for, like cheese. Like cheese in general, not like Sargento, like a specific company's cheese, but just like a commercial about cheese or like a commercial about tennis. I saw a movie poster ad that was at a movie theater, and it was an ad for going to the movies. It's like,
it's an interesting.
You know the song.
Yeah,
it's like
an
the song, like,
interesting
let's all go
concept.
to the movies.
Also, who
the
doesn't
song?
know
Like,
about
that's the
cheese?
thing.
It's like cheese. First of all, cheese sells itself. Nobody would watch a commercial about cheese and go, "Wait, what the fuck? Wait, record this. Wait, play that back. What is that thing called? I need to write that down."
Rusty Cage.
Yeah.
Rusty Cage got banned from Twitter by impersonating Sargento.
oh, that's right. Yeah.
It's an awesome reason to get banned from Twitter.
Yeah.
He's back though.
Fuck Big Cheese, man. Big Cheese. I'm sick of Big Cheese stepping on the little guy.
Yeah, some angry dad is just punching holes in the drywall, upset that no one ever told him about cheese. How did you never tell me about this?
Yeah. You fucking kidding me? You kept this from me? We didn't keep anything from you. I swear to God. You fucking did. You knew about this and you didn't tell me. No, that'd be a horrible
It's delicious.
situation.
It's versatile. You could put it on a sandwich. No one ever told you could melt it over refried beans.
Yep. Look, I'm just going to say what's controversial, but you could do a million different things with cheese.
That is controversial.
Hopefully that doesn't get me banned from Twitter.
Just don't pretend that you're Sargento when you say it. Let's get back to Smiling Friends. Any tattoos? Are people sending you tattoos of your characters?
I've surprisingly seen not that many, but I have seen one or two. Somebody who did, forgive me if you're listening to this and I don't remember your name, but somebody a while ago tweeted at Michael and I, like, not even a screenshot from the show, but like the shitty sketches that I drew on. So it takes a little bit of explaining. Basically, Michael and I did this little live stream thing called the Very Positive Stream. And on the last one that we did, we ended it by saying, go watch the Smiling Friends pilot. And I just shittily drew the heads of the characters. And I don't know why, but somebody decided to get that version tattooed on like their arm or their leg or something. And it mortified me, Like I'm always, if somebody wants to get a shocking tattoo, I'm always on board with that. But my point was, why not get like a better drawing of the characters? But maybe that's the joke. You know what I mean? That's a nice one. Look at that. Sorry, this is audio, but somebody just posted in the chat there, Charlie from the Mr. Frog episode, sipping his little cocktail there, looking like a stud with his little crucifix. But yeah, I've seen a few. That one was the most shocking to me, just because it's like, or maybe it's the most reasonable. I don't know.
Well, it almost seems like that should be the goal eventually. I mean, you've seen like purposefully terrible Simpsons tattoos, right? Where it'll
yeah. I love those.
It'll be like Bert, and it's the horrible drawing of Bart. But there's like some sort of arc. There's some sort of like bell curve where something eventually becomes like so well known that an ironically terrible version of it is more interesting than a facsimile of the actual thing.
Agree. And I would even say at the kind of the peak or right before the peak of that curve, somebody's just posted it, but the Brian Griffin Rip RIP tattoo. Now, several people got that. For people that don't remember, because it was almost 10 years ago now, which is crazy to me. Family Guy killed off Brian the dog, and people panicked and sincerely thought that they were going to kill off Brian, but they did it for like 2 episodes. So a bunch of people in that break between when they killed him off and when they brought him back got tattoos of Brian, with all sincerity, no joke, no irony, with a big like rest in peace thing. That to me is my favorite, because it's totally fucking sincere. They were like, dude, I got to stand in solidarity with Brian Griffin. And then, did they laser the tattoos off? I hope they left it on. I hope they just went, all right, I'm just gonna be 90 years old with this Rip Brian tattoo. Because when they brought it back, it almost became good ironically. It was like a shitty tattoo that became awesome when they didn't kill him off. I don't know. I love that.
Who would you get a tattoo of to honor in such a manner?
Oh my God, that's an amazing question. Of all the people on the whole fucking planet, who would I get a tattoo of? I think the ones with people's like realistically rendered heads are kind of interesting. So I would choose a real person. So you're on the right thing there. Probably somebody really deformed, just because it also feels like you're doing something respectful. You know what I mean? Like somebody that's severely, not like
if they're deformed, like the Elephant Man.
Yeah, like an Elephant Man like guy, or somebody with a horrible disease. Not to make fun of them, for heaven's sake, but just to like, if you're gonna go big, go big or go home is what I say. Like, yeah, somebody's posted. I literally cannot tell if that's Obama or if that's the fucking musician Drake. That looks like an exact like face-app fusion of the two. Yeah, somebody got the Elephant Man. Sorry, I'm referring to the chat again. I'm sure we'll pop these in. Yeah, I'd get like the Elephant Man or somebody with big bug eyes or something. Who's that horrible, deformed sex offender that was popular on the internet like 10 years
Brian
ago?
Peppers.
Brian Peppers. He'd be a good one to get.
Yeah.
And it would just feel like Stay Back or something. Like imagine if it was like Brian Peppers and it just said Stay Back. You know what I mean?
What if it sass Misunderstood?
Misunderstood. Yeah. I think that's a good one too. It's misunderstood. And you're like, what, the guy? You're like, no. I'm not saying the guy was misunderstood. I'm saying the situation, the whole look of him, the whole idea of him.
Oh no!
Oh, someone put a Brian Peppers tattoo in the episode chat.
That's what
I'm
my God!
Somebody beat me
What's
to
it. Say?
It says, "God don't make no trash."
That's better than anything. They chose the perfect picture for that too. The expression there is like, it's ecstasy. That's exactly what I'd want to memorialize too.
I'm pretty sure that's a quote from a David Cross bit where David Cross had a whole stand-up bit where he was making fun of like ironic T-shirts. This was like 20 years ago. And that was one of the lines, was like a shirt that said, "God don't make no trash." Pretty sure that's
it's a great quote.
That's referencing.
That quote married with that gentleman, I think is perfect. I don't think you could get any better than that. I take back what I said, stand back or whatever. No, or even the dumpster, the father and son duo, the Take Your Swing guys. They'd be a good one too. Again, just a nice kind of stand.
Wait, who is that?
Oh, you don't know? Well, so this, does anybody know who I'm talking? Somebody got Gollum, Jesus Christ. Yeah, the Take Your Swing guys, it was two fucking, the Mattress Brothers. Yeah, they're not brothers, but I call them Mattress Brothers. It was like a trash dispute in Texas, and it's a giant redheaded, not like red hair, but like a red-faced angry man screaming at these two shirtless hillbillies who look like clones of each other, but one's the father and one's the son, and they're both like, literally the father looks like an older version of the son, and it's a horrible gore video, so don't watch it, for heaven. It's not even funny. I wouldn't watch it, but it's great. So what happens is the father's got like a little pistol and the son's got like a shotgun, and they're just screaming at each other about trash, and the guy who's screaming at them is saying like, "I'm gonna fucking kill you," and they're like, "I doubt it. Take your swing. Go ahead, do it." And it basically ends with him taking his swing, and they end up shooting him. But it's a very interesting little microcosm of wherever that took place. So maybe those guys, not to idolize them, absolutely not, but just kind of,
they shoot him, like they shoot him dead?
They shoot him dead, yeah. They stand their ground, unfortunately, and shoot him dead. He like swings a big 2x4 at him. You don't see gore, because it's like the person recording is the wife or the fiance of the screaming guy who's screaming at the Trash Twins. And she's like egging him on to do it. You know what I mean? She's like, go ahead, fucking do something. And then they do something, and then she, screams.
Is this really on YouTube?
Yeah, it was for a while. It's really tragic.
Have they removed it since? Is it like...
Yeah, I don't think that's on YouTube anymore.
Oh, okay.
YouTube used to have insane shit on it, but it really got wiped. I'm not even making a judgment one way or the other, but they used to have some kooky stuff on there.
What's another example of that?
Oh, God. Just anything shocking like that. It all moved to LiveLeak or like BitChute. And every time I go to one of those websites, I feel like I'm getting tracked by the FBI. So you have to boot up a VPN or something. I don't know. That's a crazy one. Somebody's just posted their Pim in his little cowboy outfit flying on the little bird for episode 3, awesome. The little dove.
That's a good one.
I wonder if the Bud Dwyer thing was ever on YouTube.
I feel like that was. That's another good example.
Jesus.
I feel like that was on YouTube at one point. Yeah.
Yeah, that was life-altering.
Kevin, have there been any Vsauce tattoos? Vsauce 2 tattoos?
I don't think so.
I'm sure somebody's gotten Michael, right? Somebody had to have gotten Vsauce Michael.
Probably someone has Michael on them somewhere.
Let's get going to it. Let's get it going. Why stop at just Vsauce 1? Let's get all 3. I'd say get the Holy Trinity. Get a tattoo of all of them and then, tweet the results.
Let's see it. Yeah, let's see it, folks. I think there has been one that of like the logo, but I don't know about the face. That's a good question. I'm sure if we search Vsauce tattoo, something would come up, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, look, we've got some in the chat here. The cube there. I forget what that's called.
Well, you talking about the insane like psychosis inducing fucking fractal thing there?
Yeah.
Is there a name for that thing?
Do you remember what it is, Kevin? I don't.
Is that the modular multiplication symbol? I don't think that is.
This is
I'm not sure.
This is completely nuts. But do you guys, and maybe you'll get the nugget of what I'm saying. Do you guys ever do you think it's possible that you could see something so insane that it would actually like break you into psychosis? Like, do you think if you could show somebody a symbol like that would just be like, that would just drive you so nuts that you would just actually break your brain? You know what I mean? You ever think about that?
I don't know. I mean, to some extent, isn't that what the Ludwiko technique sort of was supposed to do in A Clockwork Orange? You know what I'm talking about? Where
I haven't seen
peel
the
his
Clockwork
eyelids
Orange.
open. Oh, okay.
I know. I'm sorry. I know the cultural osmosis of the guy who's beating the guy with the cane and like the taping the eyes part, but I haven't seen it.
Yes. So it's been a while since I've seen it too, but I believe the point of that is, I think his name is Alex, and he's like a terrible person. He's doing horrible things, and in order to sort of break him psychologically, they do this thing. I think it's called the Ludwiko technique, where they like hold his eyelids open and force him to watch imagery. I don't know if they made that up for that movie or if that was based on something. I wouldn't be surprised if it was based on something at some point. I mean, they used to do some pretty heinous things back before sort of like ethics laws were created to stop, experimenting on humans to try to fix their brains. So,
well, what's the harm in that? Whoever got hurt on horrible experimentation by the state, has that ever hurt anybody in the grand scheme of things?
I don't think so. think so.
No.
What about, so I have tattoos, not really yet, where I think we'll see more as time goes on.
Hey, things are getting a little dicey on the economic front. There's a fair bit of moving and shaking among job seekers. We've talked a lot about people pursuing new careers and even what we're going to do in the future. And now everyone wants to feel valued and to have a sense of stability. This is a tremendous opportunity for hiring, and if you do it right, you can lock down the best crop of talent in a generation. The place to do that is LinkedIn Jobs. It's where the talent is, and especially the creative talent. In just a few minutes, you can create a job posting that reaches across LinkedIn's network of over 810 million people. That's nearly 100 million more than when we started partnering with LinkedIn. everybody is on that platform. Create your listing, add on the purple hashtag hiring frame, and show everyone that you're hiring. Then throw on some simple screening questions that'll get you to the candidates you need to talk to efficiently. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want and need to talk to, and faster. Did you know that every single week, nearly 40 million active job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/create. That's linkedin.com/create to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. This is a no-cost way to connect with a shockingly deep pool of talent. You literally cannot lose. linkedin.com/create.
Here's a weird question that popped into my head. Is any weird gifts? Has anybody sent you things mysteriously, or is that not a thing?
That's a horrifying question. What do you mean mysterious gifts? Should
I don't know.
Should I be looking for something? My God, what are you going to send me?
Sinister.
I don't know.
Somebody just posted the nostalgia critic morphing into a toilet. That's kind of scary. That's kind of mysterious to me. No, I mean, I'd say, like, I don't think there's anything well, I'm not going to say that because people will try to. I was going to say, I feel like 100% of the shocking stuff that I've seen has been on either stumbling upon it kind of by accident, just looking at the internet, not even looking for it, or maybe going to a place with some, a little bit of risky stuff that's a little bit shocking to look at, but something you still get shocked by. Like, as an example, that the infamous video, really the audio of that brick flying through the Russian dash cam, that is not even a gory video, but just because you're hearing what's happening, I think that I do agree with people. I don't think it's overblown. I think that is one of the worst fucking videos out there. There's a few like that where I've just been like, okay, I don't want to look at this shit for the rest of the day. But I think that stuff broadly, this is a long conversation we can have, which I don't think we should. But I'm curious. I want to know what you guys think. Do you think it's like generally overall for your mental health better to see, not be exposed to like a constant barrage of, horrifying videos, but just generally to see like, the riskier stuff out there? And I'll give you an example. Like, I've seen so many, just over the years, so many videos of people standing at a sidewalk or walking down the sidewalk or crossing the street, and they either get froggered or they get totally flattened out or they get kicked over the fucking car. I've seen so many of those videos that even though I haven't seen a video like that in probably a couple of years now, I checked the fucking like crosswalk 3 times both ways. I'm thinking of those videos and I'm thinking of my body flying in the air like a horrible rag doll. So what's your guys' take on that? Do you think that's overall good to look at that stuff because it gives you a better grounded perspective of reality and it kind of maybe breaks you out of main character syndrome of your life of going, nobody can hurt me. I haven't told my story yet. Or do you think it's probably too cynical to look at? Because that's kind of my view, I think. But I'm curious what the consensus is.
That's your impersonation of an average person.
That's somebody who hasn't seen a million gore videos. I'm in a movie and I can't get squished because I've never seen somebody's head pop out of their head. Yeah, I mean, maybe they don't sound exactly like that, but I think that's generally the idea, right?
My story hasn't been
how
told.
deep how deep do we want to go on this? Because it's actually a really serious topic.
This is probably a well we could dig, scoop water out of for hours. So what's the general kind of off the cuff, throwing it out there perspective?
Why?
Moving on, my infamous Gallagher moment. All right, moving on from that.
No one is going to get that.
I'm going to smash
only the real ones
who
showed up early.
You're right. I'm sorry. Let's roll it back and let's just say I'm going to smash that question with a giant, like a watermelon.
So look, I actually think it's really important to do things like experience stuff like that, to experience real physical pain, for example. And I don't mean in a creepy way. I don't mean that you should like hurt yourself at a young age so that you know what pain and suffering feels like. But there's a tremendous difference between like the way I think about this is the generation that was my grandparents' generation. They saw bad things happen to people all the time. They saw accidents happen to them. Like, like people in my family, there would be farm accidents, and serious life-threatening shit. They saw people die frequently because that was just, the way it was. So many fewer people died in hospitals compared to just dying at home, and now if you're 18 years old, plus or minus, there's a really good chance that you've never actually, for example, seen a tremendous amount of blood in person in your life. I mean a lot. I don't mean a nosebleed. I don't mean a cut that takes a while to stop bleeding. No, I mean a shitload of blood. It's a different thing. And I think that makes a difference. And I don't know how you solve it, because you obviously don't want to like artificially expose people to horrors, whether it's watching gore videos on the internet or putting them in bad situations. But man, there is what's the word? Being able to process and deal with difficult things because of your exposure to difficult things. I think that matters.
No, I take the same view. I'm curious what you think, Kevin. If you have a response.
Yeah, well, certainly what exposure therapy is that very thing, on different scales.
What's exposure therapy?
Huh?
What's exposure therapy?
Oh, well, that's essentially a
therapeutic.
Yeah. Like if you have tremendous levels of anxiety about like escalators or something, the way to deal with that is to like slowly build your confidence to going on an escalator. And that takes a long time, and it takes, like little baby steps. And at first you just kind of like stand next to the escalator and watch people go up and down on it for half an hour and see that none of them get hurt. And then, a week later you go and you touch it. I don't know, whatever. I'm not a psychologist, but this is the gist. And then eventually over time, the success of it is that you can go on the escalator and you're no longer terrified of it. Or if you still have anxiety of it over going on escalators, you have the wherewithal and sort of the courage, I guess, to do it.
I think it's courageous to, intentionally jump into something that even if you know it's irrational. Like, let's say you have an irrational fear of and we could talk about what irrational versus rational is, but let's say you were 2 years old and a dog barked at you or bit you or something, and just that's in your brain now, and you're so afraid of dogs that you literally have a panic attack if you see a dog. At that point, it's better for you to run at it head on than to avoid it. But we have to talk about this too much because I know it's not exactly a nice topic, or it's not fun. But
no, but it's important.
I think it is very important, and I think you made a great point, which I fully agree with. Which is, my view is that there was no choice for 200,000 years. I mean, before that, obviously, too. But, as long as our species has been around, not only did a vast, like 90, do the math, 200,000 years, from 200,000 plus years ago to basically like the 80s or 90s, when stuff really started kind of getting you'd either go to war or you worked at a factory. And it's a good thing we're all very safe now and have very good standards of living. We don't see as much horrific shit. But the downside is you're a little bit more divorced from reality. And I think the mistake is to then go, okay, well, this is all I've ever known. I've only ever known a reality where I don't or I can't see these things. That also sets it up like the probability, not to get too more, but the probability that things will be good forever, I think is pretty low. It's possible that the overall arc of things are getting better. And I think we're definitely trending towards a better society and a world to live in. But the idea that things will never kick back, and we've seen that in the last 2 years with the fucking pandemic and new wars and all this stuff. Yeah. So my point is, if you're really not insulated, or if you're too insulated, and you're not being exposed at all to reality, I would just call that reality. So like if a guy gets his head squished on a sidewalk, that's not a shocking gore video to shock you. That's really what happened to some guy, and a camera just happened to, like, that really did happen, would be my argument. So I think it makes people less prepared for actual stuff coming at you. But I don't know. Maybe that's a good button to end it on, unless you guys have things with that. I know I'm sure people want to hear about.
We had this conversation with Rick Beato. Do you know Rick Beato?
I don't think I do. No,
we did. Yeah.
So he does. He has a music channel where he talks about contemporary and kind of throwback music as well.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And
analyzing songs in fantastic ways.
Yeah, it's a great channel. Check out Rick Beato, Beato. And we spoke about this. He's a little older than us. I think he just turned 60 this year.
Yeah, he had a birthday right before we recorded with him, and I think it was a milestone, like 60.
Yeah. So he's a little bit older than us, and we got into this exact conversation. One of the stories that he brought up had to do with like antibiotics or something, and that when I think I'm going to butcher this, but maybe it was his uncle. It was either his brother or his uncle died of a tooth infection when he was like 19 years old. Like, because it must have been his, it must have been an uncle. It wouldn't have been, they obviously would have had medicine when he was a kid, but
simple things could go septic.
Yeah. And also germ theory is only what the night, like right around World War I. I was shocked, by the way, to find out that the four humors, the idea of the four humors of the body, as a theory, I would have said, okay, what it expired as being, it stopped being like regular medical theory in the 1600s. It was up until like the late 1800s where the four humors was still entertained. And for people that don't know that, what it is, the idea was basically something along the lines of there's four liquids in your body. It's like blood, yellow bile, black bile, and mucus, I think, right? Was that it?
Yeah, phlegm, I think.
Yeah, phlegm. Yeah, phlegm instead of mucus. Yeah, phlegm, blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile, I believe. And the idea was that if any of these were out of whack, that's how you got diseases. That was an operating theory until like World War I, where we went, oh no, it's just a little fucking shit crawling around your body, and you touch your face, and then and that was like my grandpa would have talked to people that wouldn't have known about germ theory. That's insane to me. That blows my mind. Just to kind of add to what you're saying about, tooth infection kills you. There was just stuff we did. There's all those stories about.
It wasn't that long ago.
What's that?
It just wasn't that long ago at all.
Yeah, it was a blink of an eye. Even like in the 40s, I believe, with the radium girls, where you had these ladies licking these paintbrushes and dipping in radium or whatever.
Yeah,
and their faces were melting off, and they went, "Oh, I guess this stuff is radioactive." Oops, that was a blink of an eye ago. That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, same thing with vitamins. So I did this video about scurvy, which sounds like not an interesting topic, but it's actually extremely interesting. And that had to do with the four humors. It started off with that because during the age of sail, obviously they were still using the four humors, and people were getting scurvy because they were eating carbs and not any vitamin C. And after weeks, you get scurvy and your teeth fall out and you get all swollen, and it's terrible. It's like a horrible way to die. And they would pack those ships with twice as many sailors as they needed because they knew half of them were going to die from scurvy. That's how bad this was. And it wasn't until I think it was the 1930s that that vitamin C, essentially, I think it was ascorbic acid, but that was discovered accidentally because of studying guinea pigs. They accidentally stumbled upon this thing called vitamin C, and now food is vitamin packed. So they will make spaghetti, and they will like artificially pack it with nutrients. Yeah, like now with calcium or whatever. That was not a thing for a really long time because we didn't know anything about vitamins until essentially. I mean, like my grandparents, when they were kids, probably did not know, when they were like really little kids, definitely like vitamins were not a thing. It was not a thing that anybody knew about.
All of this stuff seems like a completely separate topic from what we usually talk about. I honestly do not think that it is, because it's like what Rick was talking about a couple months ago, where all of that stuff, and so he's originally from upstate New York, and he was talking about really shitty weather and how it's never that hot, it's never that sunny, it's never that good, and you kind of deal with the fact that the weather outside kind of always sucks, and it develops that sort of thing, and living that sort of way develops a sort of resilience that people elsewhere don't have. And resilience was the word I was trying to find a while ago and blanked on. But it really is like being exposed to difficulty, being exposed to failure, engaging in failure. This is stuff that we talk about on the podcast all the time. And if you don't do anything where you feel the pain, whether it's animation or YouTube or whatever, if you don't fuck up royally, you do not have the resilience to plow through and do things that matter and do things that actually do succeed. So I really do worry about people on the creative side. And Kevin and I have had conversations about like the plots for modern shows and movies and things like that being written by people who did not experience difficulty.
Yes, absolutely.
So they write about, they have plots that are centered around very trivial things that they try to make entertaining, but in the grand scheme of things, it's like, you know, the problem is like my sixth grade teacher was mean to me.
Well, it's almost
just a different
paradoxical.
scale.
It's like, because basically the argument is, or the kind of viewpoint is, experiencing failure or experiencing physical pain or, emotional pain, that hurts really badly, which it does. Nobody's arguing that. So therefore I want to avoid it. And that's a kind of, people want to avoid, again, physical, emotional, whatever pain, failure. So that's a natural reaction. But I think the big difference is, forever, I would basically say just for the purposes of this, like, again, 200,000 years ago when modern humans came around to basically 50 years ago, there wasn't an option. And your perspective was, well, like, think about World War I. I don't know if you guys have seen 1917. It's a movie, but it's a great movie.
It's excellent.
That movie is so fucking brutal. And it's like, you look at the stories of World War I, World War II is the bigger one. World War I, your feet were rotting off and you were eating shit and you were getting gassed. Yeah. It was literally the closest thing you could experience to hell. There was no option to just like walk away. That was just, and what's your perspective? Well, 100 years ago, it was war. It was the same thing, famine. It was all the same things. So the fact that we're out of that now, and to kind of go back to my point, there's this kind of natural reaction away from physical, emotional, social pain. But then what happens is that presumes that it's like unavoidable. And if you're on that assumption, then when it does come and you have zero resilience, when your resilience is zero, when your tolerance is zero, it crushes you. It immediately crushes you. And again, the paradox is like, well, you wanted to avoid pain, and then when pain came to you, you had no ability to respond at all, rather than kind of going, oh man, this sucks, but the only option is to get through it. I mean, again, I know this is literally not funny whatsoever, but I think about these things a lot, and it absolutely does relate to, social stuff, the fear of like, well, what if I, write my book or do stand-up or play the song and people hate it? And it's like, well, they might. I mean, they seriously might. But what's the worst thing that can happen? They hate it, and you check your pulse and you're still alive, and you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. And I think it is also, some of it's definitely, like, in my opinion, I'm not a doctor at all. Some of it's definitely, people can be pre-baked with like anxiety disorder or depression. But generally speaking, I do think perspective and outlook can really help with this stuff. Where if you're telling people like failure, like I was the first generation where I started getting in the 90s of like getting trophies just for participating. And I know there's like, it's like, oh, these fucking kids have it too easy. I think some of that's overblown for what the problems of right now are. But I do think it is good to teach people it's okay to fail. Get out there and keep going, get back up. I think that's a really good mindset. And I think mindset does play a big role. I mean, you hear crazy stories all the time of people just with like emotional or mental resilience that are able to get through insane stuff.
Yes. Yeah. I had, I knew, so look, this, I'm going to make this as quick as possible. 15 years ago, I was living in England and I had this girlfriend who was late I said that the wrong way. There are implications to the girl being late, aren't there? So, I was supposed to meet her at a certain time and she showed up like an hour late. And what had happened was she had glittery eye makeup, eyeshadow, and one of the pieces of glitter got in her eye, and she went to A&E. She went to the emergency room to have that like flushed out. And I thought, why did you go to the emergency room instead of like standing in the shower and having it blast your eye as you kept it open for 5 seconds and it will flush the thing out? It's not like it was embedded in there. It's like, no, I got something in my eye. And I could never get over the fact that she did this, because I'm like, how is this person equipped to handle life?
And
how can you do anything if you can't handle that level of shit. And I think of somebody I knew here who had brain cancer, a lung removed, and a barely functioning heart, who didn't have the physical strength to carry firewood into their house, but they could crawl to the woodpile, tie one end of a rope to a single piece of wood, tie the other end to their body, and crawl back and drag that piece of wood. And they did this 15 or 20 times to get enough wood for a couple days. Now, they lived up the road from me. They could have asked like 20 different people to bring in some wood.
I was going to say, why did you help them get some wood? Oh my God.
Yeah, that's well, nobody knew.
Yeah. No, and I think
nobody knew.
a lot. I feel like a lot of people like that would prefer it that way. Like I know people growing up, and a lot of people in my family are like that, where it's like they don't want help. They get a thrill out of the challenge. They live, and if you can find a way, in my opinion, to not even, problems are going to exist no matter what, but if you can find a way to kind of make it a game or make it a something you look forward to, then again, it's almost fueling you, any kind of negative thing. It's like you're either getting these things, and there are some things that are obviously way like the situation, like that's really bad, that guy's physical health, but he still took that and went, all right, how do I, like a Rubik's Cube, instead of like a cannonball, he said, there's a way to solve this, or there's a way to overcome this. How do I do it? And I think, I'll let you finish the thing. I think that's absolutely your perspective. I think it's not everything, but it's a majority. It can be a majority of how you deal with stuff.
Yeah. There's just a level of resilience, and I worry about this sounds like I'm trying too hard to bring it back to the topic, but I'm really truly not. I worry about the future of artistic endeavors being interesting, whether it's music or movies or TV shows or, things on Adult Swim. I worry about those being interesting because people right now, young people, suck at life. They don't have the attitude that will make all of those artistic endeavors interesting.
I don't think it's not their fault, though. I mean, they don't suck at life because they're idiots. It's just the circumstances that Zach is talking about, in which, we've progressed so much in the last 50 years or so that so many like horrific things have been kind of deleted from the programming for so many people that, like for instance, and I've told this story before, but we listened to Steve Horowitz years ago talk about how in the late 1800s, families would have 11, 12 kids because half of them would die before the age of 5, and like the most harrowing example of knowing that 50% of your offspring were going to die is that the families would often double name children in order so that one of them would survive with the family name. So you'd have two Williams. You'd have like William 1 and William 2, because odds are like one of those Williams was not going to make it.
Yeah, you have 4 or 5 Richards, and then 20 years later, you might have like 1 or 2 Dicks left.
Yeah, you got 1 or 2 cocks walking around. I mean, Dicks. No, I mean, it's a real thing. And just to kind of, I think you're exactly. It's not these people's fault, and I think to the one credit of people, it's a new problem. The argument is, well, yes, AI will take the fry cooks' jobs and maybe some of the mathematicians and stuff, but that's good because then we can all go fucking sing Kumbaya and paint rocks and smoke weed and la-di-da. But my argument is, no, you don't fucking get it. You do not get it. The AI, I genuinely believe it. Maybe this is cynical, but I think that I will be proven right on this, or just the idea will be that as much as I do value, laughter and art and music, it's all a matter of computation. It's all a matter of ones and zeros, in the same way that someone can study, the book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, and you can see the patterns of a story in that way and write a better story because of that. I sincerely believe, and you're already seeing it with the fucking AI art. You're already seeing it with this. I think we're about within 10 to 15 years away from not only forget the fry cook shit, forget those jobs, which will definitely be displaced by AI. The AI is going to come for the job of the artist. And here's a serious question for people. I want people to think about this. If there's a script out that gets written That's a horror movie that's written by AI. The AI takes every, movie above 90% on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb that's a horror movie. Takes every amazing script of the last 50 years or 100 years, or even, fuck that, for the last 500 or 1,000 years, every horror story that's acclaimed. And the AI goes, and it fucking gobbles it up in 1 second. And not only does it spit out a good script for a good horror movie, it spits people walk out of the movie and their ghost, they go, I can't, you just have to watch it. It's not only the scariest movie I've ever seen before. It literally like hacked my brain. It's better than any horror movie any human will ever write. I think that is a matter of time. I think it's a matter of computation. I don't think that's anything. As much as I love my job, it's mostly artists and journalists and people that do sort of quote unquote creative stuff, almost looking down on the more mechanical stuff and going, well, Boston Dynamics is going to replace the fucking dude in Missouri lifting boxes, but they're not going to come for my, my journalism job. I think, in my humble opinion, I think it's going to come for everything creative. And when the AI does everything, if it can literally think a better thought than you could ever hope and dream on any substance or clear-minded or with meditation, at that point, is humanity, do we unplug it? Do we turn it off? Do we regulate it? People, because I still see, we did, excuse me, my friends and I, we did a little video on his channel where we play with one of those AI art programs, and you give it a prompt, and it's like, I'm sure you guys have all seen this, where you type in like Homer Simpson caught on trail cam, and it spits out something a little weird but funny. That was not even possible to the degree it is publicly 5 years ago. In 10 years, what happens if you type something in and it not only is good, it's better than anything that you could have fucking ever thought of? At what point do people realize the jig is up and we're not that special? And not in a way where we're not special. Humans are very special. Like I'm not a kind of a pessimistic, nihilist. I think we're insanely special, and I think the value is what we kind of put in reality. And I apologize for monologuing here, but I want to kick this back to you guys because
No.
My argument is still, what I was going to say was, on that video, I even saw some people still kind of having cognitive dissonance and going, well, this isn't going to take over jobs. This is just some computer thing. I don't know if anyone's seen the show Devs, but what happens when it gets when you can feed that to a quantum computer and it spits out an art piece that's better than anything you've ever. And by the way, you can't help but react. Even if you go into the movie and you go, it's not going to affect me, and you watch it and you're like, it's just for some reason hitting every button inside of you where you're going, oh my, I can't help but react. I don't know. I think that's an interesting little philosophical thing. And I don't see anybody talking about the art element of that. In that way, the movie, the comedian, that's the other thing, by the way. What happens when the comedian, the best comedian on the planet, is an AI, and literally every joke it tells, you don't just laugh, you can't help but keel over with a red face, and you're spitting fucking spit up. You're spitting black bile and mucus and yellow bile and blood all into your mouth because you're laughing so hard. At that point, what do we do? And I think it's a matter of when, not if. That's my opinion. But I'll kick it back to you guys and hear what you got to say.
Years ago, I did a survey with a research project that Harvard was doing about music, and you answered a whole lot of questions. And if I remember, you listened to samples and kind of rated if you liked them or whatever. At the end, it gave you a profile of music that you liked. And I remember it so distinctly because the things, like the number one thing in the music that I like, apparently, is distinctive male vocals. And I think about the music I do like. I love Kenny Rogers. Well, you can hear Kenny Rogers and know it's him instantly. I love Elvis. Nobody sounds like Elvis. You hear it instantly. I love Guns N' Roses. All the shit that I love has a guy who has a very unique voice. And I thought, wow, they really got the art that I like. This was, dial-up days almost. So it was a really long time ago. And now with the stuff that you're talking about, Zach, with DALL-E and the AI generated stuff, and that's a lot of fun. I wonder about adaptive art. So let's say you're watching a movie on Netflix and it's a love story. And based on all my watch history and all my cookies and analysis of everything they can analyze, it takes me like a choose your own adventure path, takes me down that. if anybody remembers those books, you would read the book and then like make a choice and turn to page 48 if you chose this and 71 if you chose that. And the story depended on your choices. Well, why can't a movie automatically know what I'm going to want to see? And I see this love story and maybe it turns into a tragedy and doesn't work out in the end. And that's something that resonates with me. You watch this love story and it works out and they live happily ever after. And you know, you're happy with that because it knows what you're going to like and the art will adapt to that. Maybe I can hear a song and a generic pop song all of a sudden has a voice that is unlike anything I've ever heard before because I like that. And when you listen, the guitar is much more prominent because you like hard lead guitars. I think that happens and we would enjoy the art more, but we would lose the ability to get the artist's vision. I don't see why that's not going to happen real soon. And I think there's going to be a distinction between art that is catered to you and art that is coming directly from the artist.
That's pretty much what I was going to say is like, because I can see a bifurcation between what you're talking about and what I think continually will be relevant. And that's there can be AI generated art that's very good and it's very popular and it makes blockbuster movies and, you know, a ton of people love those. You know, newsflash, that's kind of sort of what happens already with this like Hollywood system of movies by committee where you have all these people and music too, where you have like 19 people who write one song for Beyonce. It's like
absolutely
the reason that they're doing that is that they all have different talents and they're kind of coagulating to make this one perfectly like radio friendly pop song that they know people will like. But the thing that the AI can't do, though, is inject personal experience, life experience. Like it can crunch what has been created before into a new thing. However, what we were talking about earlier with like, you know, personal tragedy and friction and malevolence and all of these sort of like weird things that are impossible to calculate that come together in, you know, a PsychicPebbles brain and then eventually turns into PsychicPebbles art. I don't see how the AI does that.
I see. This is, you know, I'm sure you guys have pre-written questions, so I'm happy to go to that. But just to put a final thought on this, because I think it's very interesting, I would say, because I had the exact same thought, isn't that what a person does? You know, not to take away from what the person does, because I do believe there is kind of, you know, a spooky kind of magic to art where the only, you know, I know elephants, if you give them a paintbrush, there's other animals that can create, but there's something very uniquely human about taking all these experiences and, like we say, you know, crunching those up and going, well, I lived through X, Y, and Z, and that's why it's a personal story. But that's all an AI would do in a way. Like, as an example, you know, to go back to the book of, you know, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, what that basically proposes, and I think it's right, I do believe in this, I think it's a correct, you know, opinion, is that there are general pre-built archetypes in the brain that we all resonate with. So we all resonate, you know, as an example, if you look at dreams people have, you can look at dreams all over the world, and by country, it varies a little bit. So, you know, in Australia, people have a few more dreams about snakes. In some Asian countries, they dream a little bit more about, you know, tigers. For, you know, you could go down the list that exact same way. But everybody has dreams about falling all over the whole world. Everyone has dreams about their teeth falling out. Everyone has dreams about getting chased. So there is some kind of inherent, I don't know what, if it's a product of evolution or what it is, but it must be. But there's a clear infrastructure. There's like a hardware that everybody can resonate with. So you could show somebody, and it's why some movies resonate hardcore overseas and, you know, and in America, but some movies really only resonate with the Chinese audience, or some movies only resonate with an American audience. I do believe an AI could look at everything and go and see the patterns that not even we can see, because all it is data crunching and and I say all it is, but we're the only ones that can do that right now. So it does seem a little bit extra, but I do believe you could build an AI that could say, oh, I see the similarity of why, as an example, why George Carlin is one of the bigger comedians, or why, Bill Burr. And those are people that I am aware of. I'm sure not everybody would find them funny. But as you guys say, if there's like adaptive and specific art, I not to be cynical, I would hope this wouldn't be the case, but I think there would kind of be a forbidden fruit thing where people at first would be really pissed off about it. I think it would be a big no, fuck, everyone would kind of boycott the AI art. I think you'd see people walk out of the theater or out of the little booth or whatever it would be, where it, as you say, scans your face. Imagine if it's a little camera scanning every micro expression, and as you become maybe not even perceivably more excited, it goes, okay, that's what you want, and it keeps hitting you with that and following that. Imagine, and again, I think people would at first look at that and go, I boycott. That's not art. That's not. But imagine if you did it once, and literally the emotion it gave you was the biggest high you've ever felt. It would be a real philosophical and societal thing we'd have to address. I think it would become a weird mental kind of heroin thing. I remember some of my favorite theater experiences where you walk out and you're like, fuck, and you're thinking about it the next day. Imagine that, but you're thinking about it for a month. You're just obsessed because it hit every little button and it knew how to do that. So I'm kind of retreading water here, but I just, more than anything, I'm curious what the comments of this video say, because I think we've kind of, shared a perspective. Unless you guys want to say something more. My answer is I don't know, and I'm a little bit more curious because people at first rejected automobiles in a way. You know what I mean? There was a big push against the idea of any kind of automation or any new thing. There was kind of, even the internet took a little bit for people to get around to. But once something's around for long enough, unfortunately, or fortunately, or however you view it, it just kind of does crack down the resistance until it's a fine powder, and everyone just kind of goes, all right, I guess this is the thing we're doing now. But yeah. Someone says Zach rambles the podcast. You're not wrong. Moving on. Sorry, that's the end of that thought.
I want to ask you a question though about this. As an artist, would you want to know if you had access to that kind of data? Because to some degree, you have a little bit. So I don't know. Let's say season 1 of this show comes out. People watch Smiling Friends. You find out that people love Glep way more than you expected they would. Maybe that factors into, what you do the next season or something like that. If you had a tremendous amount of highly accurate information about what the audience felt when they watched season 1 of this show, would you want to know that? To what degree would you want to know going into making more of it?
Well, that's a very interesting question, because I think I have gotten a version of that inadvertently just through, tweets and YouTube stuff. There was some stuff, you have an idea going into it, what you like and what, Michael and I like, obviously. And, we tried to make something that was enjoyable, really enjoyable for us, but also enjoyable for people broadly. But actually, I'll give you a really good example that's a lot more concise than rather than just me kind of talking in vague terms, which was when we were making season 1, we were very aware that it was the Pim and Charlie season. That was done a little bit intentionally for the reason of us going, well, Charlie and Pim are the main characters that go around and make people smile. The show should be mostly about them. Not every episode should be about the job, because then you're kind of locked into it. So we should have a few episodes where they're not doing that. So that was all very conscious beforehand while we were making it. And one of the things we were aware of was there's not going to be as much Alan or Glep or even the boss. We tried to include him as much as we could. But then seeing that, basically confirmed by people saying, oh, Alan's my favorite character. We want more episodes with him. And I think it's good to get that feedback. Now, there was some stuff where we would see something and go, oh, you know what? Well, we prefer doing it this way. So I guess to kind of boil all that down to a nice fucking frothy liquid you guys can drink down as a concise thought, does it make an impact? Would it change us from going one way to the 180 opposite? I don't think that would happen, but there was some stuff that we were going to do that anyways, but that's good to know that we were on the right track of doing this anyways. As an example, writing more Alan and Glep and the boss into season 2. So Yeah, I would say that did make a difference on us in a small way, where if it kind of already affirmed what we were going to do, just seeing it really underlined, I think was helpful to kind of go, okay, we've got a pretty good pulse on what people think.
I don't know what you've been sipping, but you've got it all wrong. It's time to commit to the leaf. We've embraced the smoothness and surprising pick-me-up that tea provides. I literally drink it all day long, nearly a gallon a day, and it powers me through research, script writing, and forums on websites that I refuse to name here. But we don't drink normie NPC tea. We drink cultured and refined anime tea from the Dragon's Treasure. Kevin still likes the gunpowder green called Space Cowboy, and I've sampled nearly 40 Dragon's Treasure teas at this point. Lately I've been slamming black teas like Kentucky Bourbon and Liquefied Berserk Despair. Scottish Breakfast is deep and peaty, and I smooth it over with Sebastian's Morning Earl Grey, which has the best vanilla cream taste I think I've ever had in a cup. Give me a pot of that with a hot meatball sub from Sal's Pizza and Brooks Barbecue Chicken to wash down my last meal on death row. I highly recommend the sampler packs. You'll want to try everything just like I did. I literally have not had one tea that I wouldn't be happy to reorder. The Dragon's Wings membership fuels new tea experimentation, and the Tea of the Month Club provides a regularly scheduled surprise. And when you order from the Dragon's Treasure using code CREATE, you'll get 10% off your order. That's 10% off using the code CREATE at thedragonstreasure.com. The link's in the description.
One thing I wrote down because I didn't want to lose, because it's something that I think about a lot, and it's something that obviously you do, and you're one of, I would say, a very short list of people I know who do this, is that you think of things. You know, you've mentioned human beings being around for 200,000 years. You mentioned that as part of your, as part of how you think about things, as part of how you contextualize yourself and other people. No one does that. Very few people do that. I certainly do that. Matt certainly does that. Zach, you obviously do that. I would throw this to both of you and just put you both on the spot, because I don't know the answer to this, but why do you do that? And why do you think that you do that? And because I think I know why people don't do that, because it's way easier to think of just the here and now and your personal circumstances and the personal experiences that you've had, and that's it, and leave it at that. It seems very difficult for people to imagine or conceptualize life on a scale that's 200,000 years, and how what happened for the last 99,000 of those years, or 199,500 of those years, has perhaps played a role in how things are different now, in good ways and bad ways, and so forth. So that's my question: is why do you think like that?
Well, Matt, would you like to answer first? I'd like to hear your answer. Or I could say, I'd like to kick it to you if that's all right.
Yeah, Kevin, can you do the bumper sticker version of the question to recap?
Yeah, the question is, why, when you're thinking about anything, anything, problems that you have, problems that you see cross-culturally or, culturally within your neighborhood, why do you filter them through this? Humans have been around for 200,000 years. Oh. And I'm going to start with that lens and then see things through that, and then come to a conclusion about why this is the way it is.
I mean, for me, we were actually talking a little bit about this earlier today, completely unrelated, that being embedded in a situation where you see which domino you are in the giant like mousetrap of things, but you can look back and see the ones that have fallen and hit you. It's very easy to have that perspective when, for example, you live in a place that your family has lived in for 5 or 6 or 7 generations or something like that. You deal with things that are old. Like it sounds crazy that just being around old things makes you lean toward a perspective of being one more little piece in a thing as opposed to having a real like standalone life. And I think that encourages you to consider automatically, you don't even think that you're doing this, but you are, when you talk to somebody else, you meet somebody else, you watch their art, whatever it is, you understand that that came from somewhere. Something and a whole lot of people led to whatever that thing is. And there's going to be something after it too. And I think about that with a lot of the YouTube people we talk to that, like somebody like an internet historian who we haven't had on the show, but I know him going back a few years, and he tells great stories and has like lower production value compared to a lot of channels. And he's insanely popular. What's that going to do to that style of storytelling 20 years from now? He's great, but something led to him and he will lead to something else. And it's like that when I watch a YouTube video. It's like that when I move rocks and boulders and cut down trees outside. Somebody else dealt with them. There are a couple rocks that are like 150 pounds, and they are in places that it's impossible for it to be there naturally. And I don't have any clue who put it there, but somebody had to put it there. And
well, you had your mystery pipe that you dealt with.
Oh, yeah. Jesus Christ. So, yeah, there's this pipe coming out of the ground, like to the knee level, because I hit my shin on it and it cut me just below my kneecap. That was years ago. But this pipe is coming out of the ground. And for 8 years now, I have been trying to remove the pipe and I couldn't dig deep enough. I don't know what the pipe goes to. I yelled down it and I could hear it. It didn't like echo, but I could hear the sound traveling. It didn't just die. So the pipe leads to something. I asked my brother who lived here, for 15 plus 20 years, I guess, before me. He doesn't know what the pipe goes to. He wasn't able to take the pipe out. Somebody put a lead pipe in the ground that goes to something. I don't know if it was like a cell, a torture chamber, and that's the air hole. I don't know if
right
it's a
into some
failed
guy's
well.
mouth and he's sucking anything you put inside of it.
He's like 80 years old now.
Yeah. Including
that
your
pipe
voice.
is
He
there.
sucked your voice right fucking into his belly.
It's the only person he's talked to in 50 years. But the pipe finally broke off this week. And that's the end of the pipe story, is that now I don't have to mow around it and I'm not going to hit my shin on it. But there's constant reminders that somebody was doing something a hell of a long time ago. And for better and worse, you're dealing with it now. And because of what I did, that pipe is gone and my lawn is a little easier to mow. I'm almost to a point where I could let somebody else mow it. There are so many pitfalls like rocks and pipes that it would destroy a mower. If you don't know where they are, it's like playing a video game for the first time and you just die constantly. And then you slowly learn, like where to jump and stuff like that. But I'm nearing a point where somebody is going to get $20 to mow my lawn and I'm not going to have to give them instructions. I'm just going to be like, here are the keys to the mower, cut down everything that's green. It's going to be easy. And that will be the next evolution in that whole process. Literally everything is embedded in a massively complex past and will be part of an equally, if not more complex future. Is that an answer to this?
Good Lord. Yeah, absolutely. That's a better answer than I'll ever be able to fucking conjure up. I'm right there with you. To me, because I wasn't raised, with a really secular worldview, mostly religious, which when I was younger, I was definitely fucking, anything you grow up with, you're kind of against just growing through puberty and you become anti whatever you were raised with for the most part. I mean, not everybody, but I think a lot of people. But so my point is, though, I wasn't raised with the idea that, with the perspective stuff of, people being around for 200,000 years. That was just stuff I was interested. I was really into just kind of the, dinosaurs and space, all the generic 90s little boy shit where you had a bowl cut. It's like, I have dinosaur blanket. But for some reason, it really stuck with me. And I think, I don't know. I think the biggest answer for me is it just gives me perspective, like especially when you're in a place of, the high and the low, right? If you're in a fucking state of insanely high pride and ego, it is good to just go, wait a minute, like there were people 50 years or 100 years after you die. It's just a probability thing that people are you're not going to be Napoleon or Caesar or Einstein. So it is good to just, not in a self-loathing way, because I think genuine self-loathing is bad. Like neuroses can be good, being a little bit neurotic and a little bit aware and kind of thinking on situations could be good, and thinking about all the things ways could go could be good. But to be like truly self-loathing is bad. But it is good every once in a while to just go, all right, it's good to feel good. Pat yourself on the back. You got a season of the show done. But it's a cartoon. There's even right now, there's a million bigger things in the world. And I think that not only helps me, that helps with drive, because there is totally a thing of, if you take yourself too seriously and hype yourself up too much, you not only get a big ego, but you also stop trying. Like there are people that are like, you go to conventions or go to places and it's like, I'm the biggest guy in the Transformers community, and it's like they talk like they have a fucking like a map, and they're like, yes, the territory's mine. Well, look, this isn't a unique. We're not unique right now. The idea that people have to deal with pandemics and wars and food shortages and fucking civil conflict and inflation, all of it. Yeah, literally every problem you can name that is bad. I'm not even saying it's not bad or don't complain. It's really just to put a kind of bow on the whole thought. The way I think about it is 200,000 years. It's not just shitty. It's that I really do feel like it's like, here's a ticket. Welcome to being a human.
I wanted to throw something specific on this that I didn't think to mention before, but Zach, I really appreciate you talking specifically about what things were like when you were younger, like kind of where you came from, all of that, your family, whatever. In the episode chat right now, if you're in the Discord live, you can see this. I've just posted a picture in there, and this is exactly where I'm sitting right now. This is the picture that's in there is of my grandfather playing a fiddle in what used to be the parlor. Now I do this podcast out of it and a fair bit of work. He sat there. This was kind of a music room where he played banjo and fiddle and guitar for people. He played at the Grange Hall doing barn dances, things like that. Now I'm sitting here 50 years later in literally the exact same spot. I have a plaque above my monitor for Vsauce 2, because I've been a part of something that hundreds of millions of people have watched. Math, psychology, history, all of the stuff that Kevin puts in his videos. I've done a small piece of something on that scale. I am talking to the creator of somebody who has a wildly funny show that is immensely popular. This is literally the same spot at a different moment in time. And when I was a kid, my allowance was 50 cents. I got $1 for every grade on my report card above a 90. And the only other source of income I had was returning cans and bottles for the 5-cent deposit, because I lived in New York. This stuff matters. And there is something out there that is your 50 years ago picture. It is you're buying a keyboard. It's something there. Maybe you have a family that is funnier than you, or you have a family that played the barn dances. If you don't, it doesn't matter. Read a book, because there are characters in it who have that same kind of perspective. Watch movies. Familiarize yourself with everybody else's point of view and perspective on everything. And you'll start to get a sense of what that guy thought during the collapse of Rome, what it was like to recover in a field hospital from getting a mini ball blasted through your thigh. This builds and leads to a pretty good perspective that is unique. And that's the paradox here, is that you are the tiniest little blip. And I don't know how many billions of people who have lived, but you are part of that giant project. And you're also a completely unique little data point in it. And waffling back between those two perspectives, it matters. So yeah, this stuff is heavy and big and half conceptual and half real. It's kind of crazy to think about, but it's important to immerse yourself in all of it.
Yeah, I love what you said about the both perspectives things. No, I was only going to say, just to put a little, I think you've worded that beautifully. I was only going to say I really like what you said about the both perspectives thing. And like literally on my bookshelf right now, I have Karl Marx right next to fucking Milton Friedman, which if anybody's economically aware, I think they probably could not be more diametrically opposed, but I like reading both, and I think it's very interesting. And maybe side by side, yes, actually, yes, they are. It's just that I have a little economics.
Make them kiss.
Yeah, they basically are right now. I don't think they like it very much, but they are kissing. I don't think either of them likes it very much. But
well, I just want
and there are great YouTube clips of him too. If anybody wants to follow those up,
now,
there's a thing with Phil Donahue where he talks about grading.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great clip.
Wait, that's your iPencil impersonation.
Yeah. You think the Soviets aren't greedy? If you'll pardon me, you don't think the Chinese are greedy? Yeah, I love that clip. I've seen. Again, I love
the fact that I reference a Phil Donahue episode from 1981, and you know.
I know. Not only that. Dude, I love political interviews. Have you ever seen RFK and Reagan debating in like the 60s?
No.
It's a great one. That's a great one.
Why is that so good?
Yeah.
Just because you're looking at like young Reagan and RFK and black, and there's like a British guy going, no, excuse me, what are you doing? It's just great. You should watch it. I mean, if it's totally uninteresting to you guys, then don't watch it, I guess. But I don't know why. I've also rewatched all those old political debates, like the Jimmy Carter versus Reagan debates, the fucking, Nixon versus Kennedy. I've watched all those presidential debates.
So people have occasionally ask about how you get to talk on podcasts and like develop that skill, whatever. I have watched literally every single episode, and I mean 100% of the episodes of Firing Line with William F. Buckley. This goes back to the 60s, and he recorded that into the 90s, and it's exactly what Zach was just saying about the books. So you get William F. Buckley, and if somebody loads one of those up, they will understand why we do the introductions we do to guests, and the style that we do them in. You will recognize that because I stole it from Buckley.
I was going to say, by they you mean you.
Yeah.
Or by we you mean you.
By they I mean I've committed a crime and implicated Kevin.
I heard earlier when I made that point, I thought you were gonna. I felt you mouthing the words that you were going to smash my goddamn face. I felt it coming. I think about six people. I think six people in the fucking chat even know what we're talking about right now.
Oh my God. But the beauty of that show is that occasionally he had friends on. He had the Milton Friedmans. He had the people who he agreed with. But about 75% of the time, he had somebody on there who was a Norman Mailer or a Black Panther or somebody who is diametrically opposed from him. And so you got their point of view too. And you had two very sharp people, sometimes more, going back and forth with completely different perspectives. And there is not a single episode of that show that is worthless, because you're going to get something from Buckley or you're going to get something from a guest. It's fantastic. And there are very few opportunities to do that now, to turn something on and see two sides of a thing where one isn't setting up the other side to fail. The most important thing that Buckley did with Firing Line is when somebody had created something, like there were a lot of authors on the show, people had written a lot of books. He always read the book before talking to them. And this was the source of the people who were around last week when we talked to Charity Croft. He said something about the bio that we wrote proved that we were familiar with his content. And I went on this mini rant that's like, anybody who can't write a bio, that's unique before interviewing you, don't fucking talk to them. They are absolute morons and they don't deserve it. And it's because you got to read people's stuff, right? You've got to get familiar with their perspective and then talk to them and iron out the problems. And maybe you don't make a lot of progress, but in the end, anybody watching that thing is going to be a little bit better off for it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I fully subscribe to that worldview. And I think what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to see somebody else's perspective, Oh, right. Scary.
Yeah. Is being a history nerd really all this comes down to? because that's what both of you guys are such history
I don't
nerds.
know.
I don't consider myself a history nerd.
See, I feel fraudulent.
I guess that doesn't work for
I
me.
feel fraudulent
Quite a
calling
bit,
myself
though.
that because I talk.
Yeah.
I know the more like when you see these guys on YouTube. Like another thing I love is, and actually this kind of ties to what we were saying earlier. So here you go. But I don't know if anybody's familiar with or even interested in those little time lapse videos of like World War II every day. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? It's like a little YouTube map. Well,
no.
Well,
what is this?
So, okay, one person said, yes, thank you, donkey, in the fucking chat. If you just look up, like, a really good one to look up, actually, is, like, look up Europe, history of Europe, like, every year. And it will start in, I don't know, 1000 BC, and you literally see...
The map's changing.
Yeah, and it's also just, like, that is a really good example of perspective, because you go... First of all, it's just a really short, palatable way to eat up that information. But you're going, oh my God, none of these countries exist for more than a blip. Like even post World War II, there you go. Like that's a great one. That guy I'm subscribed to also. That's World War II. Sorry, again, I have to specify. That one says World War II in Europe every day, and it's by Emperor Tiger Star. But basically, like he just took actual map information.
Oh, he's amazing.
He's great. I'm subscribed to him. Dude. But like same thing with political maps. I don't know what it is, but just like one of the things that got me into like political history and things like that, we're just kind of seeing the overarching thing of presidential elections, like going on Wikipedia and saying, oh my God, Joe Biden, got Georgia in Arizona for the first time since X year. I think it was like Jimmy Carter for one of those states. Trump flipped, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan for the first time since 1988. I think 1984 for one of those Rust Belt states. I think it was Wisconsin. So you get these insane just maps over and over. And for some reason, I just think it really puts an interesting, overarching, simplified view of either history or politics or whatever. And I really think that's the easiest way to teach someone history. Like it's or anything, political or anything, overview, instead of going, well, obviously the 1980 election was because Jimmy Carter got in because he beat Gerald Ford, who got out with Richard Nixon resigned, and he was never elected. He got in, he lost by 2 points in 1976, and then Jimmy Carter got in. It's like, instead of saying that, it's easier to just show the map and go, right, in 1980, Ronald Reagan defeated Jimmy Carter in the largest non-incumbent landslide. Okay, Ronald Reagan won by a lot. And then you even get a different story when you look at the polls. Like another one of my favorite things to look at. It's so fucking dorky. I'm probably making everyone puke and want to fucking give me a wedgie, but I really do love this stuff. Is like there's a Wikipedia page called it's called like historical polling of presidential elections, and I think it goes back to maybe I think it's one of the FDR elections, maybe 1930, 19 what would it be 1930. 1936 or so. It's around there. And you'll go, oh my God, like Ronald Reagan was at like 30% against Carter and he pulled up at the very end. Oh, that's because, and you look into why. And it's like, okay, it's because he was viewed as like kind of a right-wing warmonger, but then he kind of won a big part of the country over. And he went from polling at 33% to, again, getting the biggest non-incumbent landslide victory. So that's a long-winded way of saying, if you're looking at the big overview rather than the little micro details, it makes everything learning so much easier. Just to say, because I see some people rightfully saying, they're maybe a little bit more interested in Smiling Friends. I have to say, though, Michael and I both, it actually does connect in a way to kind of loop it back. Michael, one of the things we really, for lack of a better term, bonded over was, I would be like, do you remember this weird fucking 80s thing? He's like, oh yeah, you mean, he's quoting, some weird obscure, like we were just doing with a Donahue interview. It's like, that? So we really did kind of come together on just this interest in history and these weird little moments. And I think that within the Smiling Friends, obviously there's a filter between, like when we're doing our writing calls, it almost is like two parents. We're just kind of like, we're sitting there thinking of stuff. It'll go, well, there you go again. Just weird, like nonsense kind of stress, like just not even political necessarily, but just, history, pulling from different things. I think it is and this is something I would definitely advise to people if you're an animator or an artist. This has really helped me, is try as much as you can to not be influenced by stuff of the same genre. So what I mean is it makes it a little bit difficult. Like, yes, Michael and I are huge fans of South Park. He really grew up with like The Simpsons and South Park, but like The Simpsons, whereas I grew up a little bit more with, some other thing. And that influenced our like taste and what we wanted to do. But that's not all we have. I think if you're going to be maybe an animator or a cartoonist, I think it's good to pull from, history or music or anything outside of that, because then you almost start becoming, it becomes, for lack of a better term, if Chris Chan were smiling down here, he would, incestuous. You're kind of doing a thing that an artist did, that another guy did. You know what I mean?
Why?
I'm just speaking facts, man. I'm just telling you. But yeah, I think basically, so I know this seems insanely like, if you're not directly influenced by this, it might seem a little bit bizarre or boring. You don't even have to be interested in what I'm interested in. And very few people I think are, besides, Matt and Kevin and the few people that get these weird references. But I think if you're going to draw from stuff, because a lot of times, literally today, we were writing an episode, and one of the things we were talking about was, do you remember the assassination of Jesse James? Either the movie version or the real version, but when he goes up to adjust the crooked picture and gets shot in the back of the head. Now that might be some weird cowboy trivia, but we use that as that's a good thing to pull from. And a lot of the time too, and I'll kick it back to you guys after I'm done with this thought, but a lot of your favorite shows, and I've learned this growing up over the years, like some South Park joke I laughed at, or Family Guy joke, or Simpsons joke that I saw, where I was like, that's really funny. I'll later learn like, that was a reference to something from like the 20s, or like something that they were referencing that their grandparents knew. Yeah. So, someone said, what's the reference? I'm not fucking telling you. You have to wait, dude. You're never going to know.
A lot of the Simpsons did that. There's like endless old movie references and, Yeah,
and a lot of people don't realize that they're looking at a reference and they just enjoy it. But they were sitting there, they weren't going, what did the Flintstones do? I mean, maybe there's one or two jokes out of a million that do that, but it was a lot of like, like as an example for like a Mr. Burns joke, that's a lot of pulled from real. They're just laughing at old weird shit from like the late 1800s, like weird inventions and terminology, which, I find that stuff funny too. Like even the idea of ptomaine poisoning, that to me is so fucking funny. That there's a word called ptomaine poisoning. It's just that are like the four humors. I don't know. That's from, history and things like that. But you can pull from that and turn that into something comedic or whatever.
Hey, what is ptomaine poisoning?
You gotta put bleach. You gotta put bleach in your water.
Why do you probably explain it better than I will? But go for it. Explain ptomaine poisoning. Can we ptomaine pill the audience here and Kevin?
Yeah, so the threat of ptomaine as a bacteria getting you sick was so severe that, like, this was a thing in my family that I remember hearing about it. I know my great aunt Ruth did this. Where
wait! I just need to. Yeah, your great aunt Ruth was fearful of ptomaine poisoning. Is that because that as a title? That is the funniest fucking. That should be a book. My great aunt Ruth was petrified of. See, that's a good example. That just is like, there's nothing funny about. I'm sorry. I know she.
But yeah, she was so back.
Oh God, they got me.
That generation, and
this is what AI can't do. This is what AI can't do.
Yeah, AI
can't. Zach, this is exactly what AI can't do.
So, to guard against the ptomaine poisoning, you would fill your kitchen sink with water and then dump like a cap full of bleach in the water and soak your chicken in the bleach water to kill the bacteria so you wouldn't get ptomaine poisoning. And it wasn't enough to really affect the flavor of chicken, but that bleaching chicken thing has stuck around. Like, there are a lot of people who still do it. But yeah, that was the guard against ptomaine poisoning.
And you'll find clips from either movies or it's not that old. In fact, what's that? I can't believe it's slipping my name, but that famous comedian who really inspired Weird Al, the guy from the 60s, the comedy parody guy. Hello, Bada.
Dr. Demento?
Hello, Fada. Who's the fucking guy that sang that song?
Dr. Demento?
No. Fuck, what is his name? In Normal Al? Yeah, it was that guy.
Alan Sherman.
In his song, he mentions ptomaine poisoning. So that's not that old idea, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Like, when you go back and you look at,
No, it's like Depression era.
Yeah. And even later, I think it was until like the 50s or 60s, ptomaine poisoning was finally kind of ruled out as like, okay, this is not really. But just as an example like that, like I love the idea of, if anybody wants to spell it, it's PTOM, I think AINE, poisoning. Look it up. I don't know. Just weird old debunked scientific theories fucking crack me up for some reason. But
make you shit yourself.
Great Aunt Ruth and her ptomaine poison. I'm sorry.
So this was not a real thing?
I think
this was not real.
I think it's been since
it's real.
debunked, which makes it even funnier to me. It's just like people are going, "Oh my god, you got ptomaine poisoning," and it's like, "Oh, that wasn't even." Am I right about that? I feel like it wasn't real and it got debunked, which makes it even funnier.
It's food poisoning.
Sorry, you're right. You're right.
I mean, it's really just food poisoning.
So it's just like salmonella
yes, but they didn't,
E. coli.
They didn't know exactly what. They just thought it was like, I think, vague impurities. Yes, it was like an old way of saying food poisoning, but I don't think they knew exactly. Like, I think it got later boiled down to a more concise like idea.
God, what does the word ptomaine even mean?
I don't know, but it's fucking hysterical.
Where does that come from?
It's so fucking funny.
What's the etymology of
the etymology?
Ptomaine? It's such an odd word.
Dated chemistry. Okay, so toma is Greek.
Comes from corpse.
From corpse. Oh, Jesus!
My God,
literally, you guys are making me love ptomaine poisoning even more. I didn't even know that.
That's horrific. That is horrible.
If you don't dip your chicken in bleach water, you will become a corpse.
Yes.
And
you'll get ptomaine poisoning.
Yeah, corpse poisoning. Oh my God.
God. We want to help you make something and mean something. And we say that phrase all the time because when you're making something and you know it means something, even if it's just to you, that's when you feel pretty good about what you're creating. The support for the Create Unknown in recent weeks has been incredible. Animators, artists, musicians, YouTubers, aspiring filmmakers, comedians, it is crazy how talented everybody in this community is. Consider joining the Create Unknown Patreon. Every dollar that comes through goes straight into the podcast and its community. That means more highlights videos. It means a big Minecraft project that's on the way. And eventually we'd like to manufacture custom piss bottles so you never have to leave your battle station. And being a patron unlocks participation in all of our live recordings. You've seen the roster of guests we've had. Having access to their minds is a unique opportunity. You can go to patreon.com/thecreateunknown or click the link that's in the description. Every little bit helps and your support means absolutely everything to us. Patreon.com/thecreateunknown, links in the description. We appreciate you, Space Cowboys.
All right.
What a scare.
Look, we got to get off whatever train we're on right now. I don't know what this train is.
I think we talked about
anymore.
Smiling Friends for about 12 seconds. I think we talked about rotting bodies and stuff.
A lot of the questions.
Yeah.
Questions are a little harder on
yeah, we have a lot of patient questions.
People want to listen to Smiling Friends. There's a bunch of other, First of all, all right. First of all, we've tackled before, but also we're going to answer them now. But also, this goes into Smiling Friends. This fucking goes into the show. You want to know what Pim fucking keeps him up at night? It's ptomaine poisoning. So now you fucking know.
This is how the sausage is made.
Yep.
These are the exact ingredients, the step-by-step process. You know,
it really is the creative process. Though.
We talked to, again, I'm referencing this Beato episode. You guys should listen to the Beato episode because it touched on a lot of this stuff. But
we love Rick Beato.
We talked about this as it relates to bad art, where in the past, I had read this article in which it suggested that in the past, a lot of the great storytellers had a really eclectic mix of influences that coalesced to turn into whatever their great piece of art was, a great book or great movie or series of each of those things, great music. And the suggestion was that in modern times, a lot of what is coming out are people who don't have a very eclectic mix. They've just kind of like watched the same shows and movies that everybody else has. And that's it. And they're sort of reconstructing stories that are based on a handful of stories that everybody's already seen. Star Wars movies and Simpsons episodes or whatever it is, Star Trek. And that's sort of like the short list of their influences. And perhaps that the suggestion is that may be why a lot of this stuff isn't very good, is that there isn't a lot of personality behind it. And what you're saying is exactly in line with what is thought to be the recipe, how the sausage is made for unique perspectived art. Is like, you have to be weird about this stuff. You have to have a weird range of interests that make absolutely little to no sense, but come together in where all of a sudden, ptomaine poisoning is influencing Alan on season 2 of Smiling Friends.
That's the big story. You can expect that one.
And there's no algorithm for that. Yeah. It just is your weird confluence.
Just a quick thought on that. I know for a fact, based on, like I said, I've been listening to the audiobook and reading the book, which I'm sorry, I'm going to reference again, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, which is, I think it's Joseph Campbell. And like I said, he basically looks at every single, that book, I think, is the single biggest influence for Star Wars. I think George Lucas literally credits that book for that. Yeah,
it was. And
even J.R.R. Tolkien, that guy was like obsessed with languages. He was more like a language and like history nerd. I mean, he was like a war veteran also. So it's very rare that somebody that makes something, truly that rises above the rises to the top of the froth is influenced by other media of a similar nature. Like, what I'm saying is, and I'm not saying this is always going to be the case, because there's always edge cases, but if you watch Lord of the Rings or read Lord of the Rings, and you're like, I really want to make a Lord of the Rings inspired thing, it's going to be pretty difficult to ever beat or top that, because there was nothing else like Lord of the Rings that invented a lot of things. The same thing with Star Wars. There was a lot of sci-fi before Star Wars, but Star Wars, there's a lot of things that are derivative of Star Wars now that will never beat or rise to the level of Star Wars. So, I think from my understanding of these big cultural impactful things, from what I understand, almost all of them are derivative of history or language or culture or personal experiences or just something other than what they are. You know what I mean?
Well, and then mixed with the other
crazy thing
stuff.
About what you're saying,
because George Lucas ripped off Kurosawa, which was a good person to rip off for making a movie.
Who ripped off somebody who ripped off somebody, because this is a God-fearing podcast. And that's why you need to turn your Bibles to Ecclesiastes 1:9. The line here is, what has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. And that is what undergirds everything we're talking about here, that there's this dichotomy of timeless stuff like what Joseph Campbell says in The Hero with 1,000 Faces. This goes all the way back thousands of years. People understood this, which is why it's in Ecclesiastes. There's the stuff that's going to be derivative, but then you need to be an absolute weirdo in some way. You need to come up with the ptomaine poisoning conversation. You need to read some bizarre book. You need to fall off your bike so hard that you know what breaking a leg feels like. All of these things combine with that mentality of nothing being new, with you being able to put a spin on that thing that is completely and wholly unique.
Absolutely. And I would say, if you're listening to this and you feel like, I haven't found the thing, don't even you don't have to, go run and look at Wikipedia, the 1980 election. I would say, I think my best advice is, I didn't know that I liked, as an example, history or politics until I saw it through an interesting lens that appealed to me. So I would just say, explore every topic you possibly can. Study insects, study weird lost books, study space. I mean, study as much as you can about everything, and something will jump out and grab you. You won't know what it is even, but there are definitely things that everybody out there will have some interest in. It might be so obscure that there's literally nobody around you that's as interested in it as you are, which is a good thing. There will definitely be a little community you could go to that'll be, hyper fixated on it. But it doesn't need to be cool. It doesn't need to be, it can also be, like I said, completely different. Like ptomaine poisoning and the four humors and trench warfare has nothing to do with like cartoons, but you will naturally know what to drive out of that, what to pull out of that. I think that's been my experience, at least. And it sounds like it's your guys' experience too, of looking into things, finding what you guys find personally interesting, and then funneling that and either using it in your own work or taking those subjects and making them interesting for a wider public, which I think is great too. Like taking a really complex thing and making it, like still getting the complexity across, but also making it easy to palate and not having to read a Wikipedia article that's like, or a book or something. But if somebody's truly interested in one of these topics, then they can go and get the whole fucking giant encyclopedia and read all of it or whatever.
To dip their chicken in the bleach. I think an analogy that just sprung to mind is like, if creating is connecting dots, it's really helpful to have as many dots as possible to create a unique picture. Just add dots to your dot picture and it will come out a lot more interesting than if you're only connecting a handful of them and then you just make something kind of basic that everyone's seen a million times before. Yeah. We have 1 billion questions from our patrons that
would you guys like to do a rapid fire Q&A? Because
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I would
lightning round.
I would love to, I literally love lightning round because it allows us to actually answer. I think everybody's going to love what we talked about because, I mean, how can you fucking not? We're lovable guys, you guys. Come on. We're lovable guys, you guys. Give us a fucking break. But now we get to answer all your wonderful questions.
We're the 3 most lovable guys since Lemon
I've been
Party.
saying that since the fucking start of this podcast. Go to tomateparty.com. You're going to find the 3 of us in a compromising position. So do you guys
are we all holding the same chicken that we're dunking in the bleach sink?
I don't know if we want to go into it. I think everyone's got to go. Yeah, you call it a chicken, call it a sink, whatever terminology you want to use. That's what we're doing.
Okay. It's a euphemism.
It's a Rorschach test. Whatever they think we're talking about, we're talking about. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Oh, man.
Okay, well, let's do the lightning round. We will fire quickly and expertly. First one is from Conrad. Would you torture a 6-foot-tall perfect copy of Hitler if you could?
I'm aware of this hypothetical. The answer is, I think no, he didn't do it. No. If you put a serial killer's brain in an AI robot body, could you torture that guy? Not his brain. If you cloned his brain with a robot, could you torture that guy? I would say no.
Yeah.
He's not guilty of the clone's sins. So no. And I think I'm right about that. Chris,
interesting.
Come at me.
This one is from Penny Peddler, which, by the way, again, thank you for joining the infantry. How does it feel to be the most inspiring creator since Pendleton Ward? I think that's a valid question and a valid comparison.
Well, on one hand, I want to disagree with the premise, but I also want to say thank you. And, I don't know how to answer that besides saying it's very nice of you. And I don't want to be a hack. I hopefully
you gotta know.
Hopefully when we got done with season 1, our big goal, and we say it all the time, and it's what we aspire to. We want season 2 to be better than season 1. We pretend that season 1 never even came out. We have to prove ourselves again. So hopefully we keep upping the ante and getting better. That's the goal. I hope is that answer the question, or is that a total?
But it answers part of it, but we've got to be honest about the fact that you have gone from a point career-wise from making a lot of people happy, making a lot of people laugh, to doing a project that inspires people who are doing the same types of stuff, whether it's humor, animation, or whatever. That you've just hit a point in the distribution where that's happening in the world. What's that feel like to have moved into that phase?
Definitely weird. I mean, obviously, I started making, cartoons for basically nobody. But again, I try not to, obviously I'm aware that, I've co-created a show with a good friend of mine who's by the way, very successful. Is that right? He's doing another great show called Koala Man. He's doing Yellow season 2. So I'm humbled in a way, and I'm happy to be doing it. But I really try to pretend I've made nothing, which I know sounds weird, so that I don't get too high on my own fumes. I'd like to pretend I have to prove myself over and over. So that's the way I think about it. I hope that does not sound like me dodging it, but that really is how I view it. I feel basically I don't think about it pretty much at all, and I try not to pretend I've accomplished anything so that I get even more gas to fucking do it again. I hope that's satisfying.
No, that's solid. It is. And I'm trying to find the question I wanted to use to follow that up. This is from Donk. Is there a time where you have to finish a new season or an episode, or do you tend to do like it's done when it's done? I mean, how does that balance with the reality of like working on a studio schedule?
They definitely have a schedule, and they definitely have a deadline. And I think one of the things we're going to get better at, and we are getting better at, is I think season 1, we kind of got slapped with a generic TV pipeline, and all that means is basically we kind of got grandfathered into and it's not anyone's fault, but we got grandfathered into a system of a budget and a schedule. Actually, less so budget, really the schedule. I mean, the budget, everybody wants a bigger budget, so that's not really the point. But the schedule we had, once we were done with this season, we thought, we do things a little differently, and I think we're going to do things better this time in terms of saving our own time and saving everyone else's time. I can expand on that more, but we're doing lightning round. Basically, just putting a little bit more time at the very beginning when things are the loosest, really putting a lot of effort into that, and then locking that in, and then, because we probably put equal distribution across the whole thing, which the further you go in, it gets exponentially harder to change stuff. So I would say basically, I know it was about making the thing in schedules. I think we're going to get better at it, and we want to, I love television. I love, just saw that show Severance, which is great. I'm on Better Call Saul. I hate waiting a year or two between seasons. So we want to give people season 2 as fast as we can do it. We want to give the network as fast as we can do it, while also making sure that it's the best. So I hope that answers the question.
That's a good one. And this one is about specifically making a thing. It's from Foster the Sheeple. Smiling Friends is an extremely memeable show, which is why Twitter is just loaded with amazing tributes and memes and everything. What do you think about creators deliberately injecting memeable formats into the things they make so that to try to encourage that happening? How does that affect what people are going to make?
I think it really impacts people in a negative way, because you've had instances of people being a little bit too aware of it. That's why they call it a forced meme. You know what I mean? So usually that's somebody like referencing an existing thing from the internet from 10 years ago, like when Family Guy did the Troll Alone guy, or there are some shows that do like a weird rage face from 2009, and it just never feels good. What we tried to do is take from SpongeBob and The Simpsons and all those other great shows where you are hopefully the one impacting and adding to the pile rather than taking out of it and trying to recreate. But it never felt to us, we never purposely went, this face or this moment's going to be this is going to be it, man. This is going to be all over fucking Twitter or ifunny.com or 9gag or whatever. You just try to make something that makes you laugh as much as possible, and you leave it at that, and it's in God's hands at that point, in 9gag's hands or whatever. I mean, whoever finds it funny, finds it funny. Whoever does it, does it. But I think if you're going into it with trying to make something go viral, I don't think it's ever going to work. Or if it does, it's like a fluke. It's a total miracle. It's a fluke.
So it's got to happen.
It's got to happen organically. And yeah, it has to make you laugh. If you're not laughing, why should anybody else laugh?
Yeah. Antomo's got a really cool one here. Looking at your old Newgrounds comments, they're usually very long reviews of people's animations. Antomo's asking if you still do that occasionally, like on a secret little alt. You still engage in that
I don't
passion.
do that, but I really do like writing out big... I don't know. I'm not very good at it, but I like dissecting stuff or writing out, not people or animals. I'm talking about reviews, people. Talking about doing reviews. Yeah, I do like writing big, long things, because that was something I did learn from Newgrounds too, was somebody would leave you only have one review, you only have one comment, so somebody leaves a fucking 2,000 word essay on why you suck and you should give up. But it's good because you go, oh, you're a little bit right there, and fuck you there, but you're also a little bit right there. And I think that inspired me to think that way. And, not just, I don't like this. That's not a review to say this sucks. It is a review to say, I didn't like this because this took me out of it, and this could have been better, and then and that also is just, I think, a good thing to have if you're going about the world. If you're like, this thing bothers me, or this idea pisses me off, well, why? You should be able to explain yourself and articulate that. But the short answer is no, I don't do long horrible reviews anymore. It was fun though. I don't regret that at all. I think it was a good little sport back in the day. I think it was a good habit.
Well, we've got a palate cleanser from Chinchilla, Monsieur Chinchilla. What's your opinion on chickens?
I love eating them. I know that's controversial.
Living chickens. He actually specified living chickens.
Oh my God.
So, well, I mean,
you know what?
You
know what? He went, I'm going to ask him, what does he think of chickens? And then he went, wait, this fucking dumbass is going to go, I like eating chickens. So good for you. I'm not even saying this sarcastically. Good for you for the 40 chess, because that is a better question.
He's 2 steps ahead.
Well, you just almost hit on what I like about chicken. I don't know. The most fascinating thing I think about chickens was that one that got its head chopped off and still walked around for like 2 years, and they put little kernels of grain in its open neck.
Yeah.
I know that was pretty cool.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. It's fucked up.
Yeah. If somebody's not familiar with that, look on Wikipedia. Just read the Wikipedia page about that chicken. I forget its name, but it's scientifically fascinating.
Yeah, look up.
And it was
chicken,
like 2 years, wasn't it, that it stayed alive?
Chicken that lived without its head or something. It sounds like a joke, but
that'll get you there.
That'll get you.
It'll get you there.
That'll get you
to your destination.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got? Let's make this. Let's put down the thunder for this lightning round. I want the thunder to crack.
The thunder is about to crack when I ask. Oh yeah, this is good. It's from Tom Videogre. What's the best thing to eat? The best snack to have?
Actually, or like a joke answer?
As somebody is watching season 2 of Smiling Friends, that's a specific part. What should they consume as they watch?
Laughter. Fucking laughter and smiles, you guys. I don't know. A nice tall glass of water, a nice big plate of unseasoned broccoli and tomaine seasoned chicken. I mean, you got to fuel your body somehow, man. No, I don't know. Stay away from anything with carbs, I guess. I don't know. Eat something with like a nice, it doesn't have to be, I'm not telling you to literally eat broccoli and, so what's this, worms? Yeah, if you want to. I don't think they're high in protein. I think it's just dirt you're eating, but, yeah, do whatever you want. I would say do just something that's not going to make you sleepy and, make you fall asleep. Don't eat a whole bag of chips. You know what I mean? As much as I love that, I'm not even talking down to you. I'm just saying, as a guy who's done that, you don't want to put your body through that. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Well, we've trod across this ground a few times, but Space Quiznak asked about something that inspired a facet of one of the episodes, like plot or storyline. We talked a little bit about weird things popping into plots earlier, but is there anything that would that comes to mind with like a conversation with Michael, or some weird little gag thing you're thinking of historically that made its way into even a line or a scene?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would say there's probably something in every episode. Mr. Frog is inspired by a lot of people, but I think the big inspiration was Hunter S. Thompson and his schedule. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but Hunter S. Thompson famously has a daily routine where it's like wake up, cigarette, vodka. He just lived like shit. And I think the key to Mr. Frog was figuring out, that's Mr. Frog. He's Hunter S. Thompson, but he never goes to sleep. That's just him all the time. There's also, as a character, obviously the Mip character, spoilers, a little bit inspired by, obviously the Lord of the Rings movies, the Ralph Bakshi, rotoscope stuff. But the Bobby builds at the end definitely reference to the Bjork Stalker, which we're both fascinated by. Yes, there's a lot of inspiration in the show, probably in every episode. And you're going to see a lot more of that without knowing, hopefully. I think a lot of people don't know that they're looking at a reference to something, whether it's historical or political or old, outdated science. So you can expect a lot more of that.
Well, we're going to go big. Whifflebutter brings up that you've talked in the past about branching off into other stuff, like writing a musical, making a video game, just like any other type of thing. Is there a story that you want to tell in any of those media? Is there some burning love story you've got to work on? Is there some trench warfare story?
That's a very good and interesting question. So for a long time, I've wanted to, and I'll even give you a little bit of an insight. It's not going to be interesting at all. But right now I have a story that I'm trying to crack. That's a separate thing from Smiling Friends that I'm just kind of picking away at. And I don't know how it's going to come out. If it's a book, if it's a movie, if it's a short series, if it's a video game. I have no idea what the avenue is. But broadly, without giving anything away, I just had a feeling that I kind of want to tell a story in the vein of, I don't really want to well, in the vein of just like my favorite types of stories are like the Odyssey or are, Alice in Wonderland. Basically, not even necessarily character goes to a different world, but character is put through a series of completely surprising trials and tribulations and comes out of that in some way.
Kevin, this is like hearing you talk about Sleep Warrior.
I know.
It's virtually the same thing.
Like, Zach,
it's like
you don't know what you're getting
voice.
into. It'll take forever, but it is a good goal to have.
Consume you.
Yeah, we'll consume you.
Yeah, Ducky's got a specific question about comedy. And even though comedy is subjective, how do people get better at script writing and line delivery? Is that something you just have to kind of have an innate sense of, or is there something you can do to incrementally improve on that?
I wish, so for script writing and I think voice acting, that's a little bit more of there's a system to it a little bit more, I feel like, where you can incrementally get better. In terms of comedy, I almost am too afraid to think of it, too neurotic to think about it too much, because I've had a lot of moments in my life where I'm like, oh, what if I just, not even what if I lose my thing, but just like what even makes it work? And if I do the wrong thing in my life, will it fuck with that? I think there are plenty of people, filmmakers, comedians, musicians, that kind of lose the whatever. And so I've got a feeling that does have to do with adversity. I think that's my own, again, I don't know. I literally have no idea, but my operating theory is that as long as you have, whether it's real adversity that's, unintended, that's just coming at you, or it's artificial. So if you're a billionaire and you have a nice house and you fucking can do whatever you want and you have no real obstacles in your life, I think you need to make obstacles. I think that probably, but that's not even really comedy. That's just more of a living thing. But in terms of script writing, I would just say, just keep doing it over and over and try as much as you can to make sure there's not wasted stuff or double beats. So what a double beat is, which I've learned to get better at, is if you're reading something and you're looking to cut stuff, just looking at it and going, what does that add? What did that line just add that we didn't already know? Did it reveal something about the story, about the character? Did it respond to somebody in a way that showed a new angle? If it's just like, in other words, if you have a scene where two characters are going, one character's pissed off and one character's happy, and it's like, I'm pissed off because the weather's bad, and you have these characters talking about this for 10 minutes. That's why stuff feels like it doesn't go anywhere. So trying to roughly make every, Michael and I do that all the time, looking at action lines. So this happens. In fact, there's that great rule, the but or therefore. So if you're looking at your script, and I lifted this from other writers, but basically, a guy was going to the store to get milk, but they were out of milk. Therefore, he went to, whatever. But if your story is a guy goes to the store to get milk, and then he got milk, and then he went home, that's not a story. There's no obstacle. Nothing changed. South Park, somebody said, Matt and Trey used that. I think it predates them. It's just a good theory to have where you're able to, another way to say that is if you're able to delete a whole piece of your script or a couple of lines and it doesn't change anything, you cut it out. You don't need it. But that applies to both dialogue and action, and just figuring out what is the point of your scene? What changed by the end of the scene? I'm definitely the worst person to kind of get this advice from. And the final thing was voice acting. I don't know if I'm a great voice actor or not. What's helped me get better at it is the style that I like is trying to sound, realistic or like you're not being recorded. So sometimes a way to think of it is if you're able to, if you're talking back and forth with somebody and you're able to make it sound like, if you're voice acting with somebody else and the other person goes, wait, was that actually you or where were we going?
Well, we're going to jump to Nostalgia Critic and the Baby Gang. Have to assume it's the real one. Why wouldn't it be? Do Pebbles fans have do Pebbles fans have a name like Maggots for Slipknot or Monsters for Gaga? And do Smiling Friends fans have a name?
No, they don't. But should we? Right? I feel like right now we could figure it out.
What is smaller than a pebble?
I don't know. For Pebbles fans, it's a little more. With the Smiling Friends fans, I feel almost like I'm betraying Michael for thinking something like that up without him. But if the audience has any suggestions, maybe they can kind of title themselves here. If I were to pitch something, it'd probably be banned. It would get you guys demonetized. So I didn't want to throw anything out there.
So there is something like scientifically, like a pebble is in the ranking. So a cobble is bigger than a pebble, and a pebble is bigger than a granule.
A granule.
So the next one down, the next step down is granules.
Grannies.
Yeah, grannies. The grannies. Grannies unite.
Grannies. I like that. I like grannies. So we got a couple more, and then you can have your sweet release. Dan the Latch, who has listened to all the episodes, been around since the early days here, he mentions that you've talked in the past about aspects of real life that are not usually part of media. You mentioned on that episode gooning and the mundane nature of the Renaissance man. But is there some aspect of humanity that you just want to see depicted in something, or that you depict yourself?
Well, I would hopefully like to pull whatever that project I was talking about, which I don't even know what it is yet. I definitely like to pull some things into that. I think one of the most interesting things to me right now, and we kind of tackled it a little bit in the Smiling Friends Christmas episode, but the idea, I would say my fundamental worldview is we, in a non-cynical, non-pessimistic way, we are kind of animals that we're very intelligent, we're very good at what we do, but we didn't evolve in the environment that we're in now, and especially with these things that we're literally not able to deal with. I mean, we think we are, because there's kind of this notion of, to contrast with what I was saying before, when we were talking about earlier about, willpower and getting over stuff. I think there's something to that, but the idea that your brain, for example, is hardwired to find food when there was no food, and that's not even a small period of time. That's like life, that's being alive. And the other thing is to have sex, right? And what do you have now? You have sex robots or internet porn, and for food, you've got McDonald's, and you've got cheap food. Now, there's nothing wrong with those things inherently, but when you're throwing those at a system that is literally designed to gobble them up, you have a lot of people with a lot of addiction problems, even drugs and alcohol. And a lot of people kind of don't, I think the reason why it's definitely tackled, but when it is tackled, it's usually kind of a secular mindset versus a religious one. And I think that's so wrong. I think if you're secular, you should really be looking at it and going, no, like it's like, why does the bird peck at the fucking, in the lab experiment, keep pecking for food? It's not the bird's personality that it's addictive. It's literally just a bird get fed something that it evolved to do. And you got all these similar sorts of stories. Like, I'm sure you guys have heard the anecdotes of, like, you can trick animals with a little fake version of themselves in a tribe, and they don't know. You can put a little fake monkey with a little camera inside. They don't know it's fake. There are certain types of beetles, I believe, that like try to mate with like beer bottles in Australia. You've got all these weird things of nature kind of easily getting glitched out. And so
that's just Australians.
Yeah, that is Australians. You're right. They're trying to fuck beer bottles all the time over there. But if I could say really concisely,
the old Victoria bitter.
Yeah.
I didn't know Beatles was a pejorative for Australians.
Bleep that out for fuck's sake. I mean, I don't want to get demonetized. I don't know. Just if I could really boil it down. I was going to say boil it down. If I could boil it down, human beings, and by the way, even the AI shit right now, even like this goes beyond pleasure. This goes beyond adversity. This everything we've been talking about is our people aren't ready for automation. They're not ready for AI. There's an increasing pace, which with people are being smacked in the face with experience, with meaning, all of these things we're kind of getting hit with, and there's not enough reaction time. Like TV, radio, AI, there's all these things we're kind of getting hit with and having to deal with as we're doing it. That to me, I think, is probably the single most interesting thing. And it'll either destroy us or we'll get through it and we'll talk about it. But I think that is a very broad, like nobody would make the connection between McDonald's and AI and like internet porn. But I think there really is a connection between all those things thematically, where these things aren't bad, but we're built to kind of absorb, and we're getting hit with these things with a fire hose. And I don't know. I think that is got to be one of the most fascinating things as a species we're dealing with. It's new. It's brand new.
Mhm.
You say Firehose, and I think of Joel Miller finding the marble in the oatmeal.
I don't.
Do you know that reference from UHF?
No, I don't.
It's a drink from the Firehose.
Oh, you have to watch UHF. Watch it tonight. It's the Weird Al movie. He got to make one movie and then never again. But it's great. It's very, very funny.
I'll definitely watch it.
You'll like it.
So we've got two quickies and then the end. First quickie is from W Quiz. Does Cream the Slug haunt your dreams?
She haunts my sexual fantasies. If you know what if you're picking up what I'm putting down, well, you imagine that little cartoon character, you imagine my fucking pecker turning into a red rocket. I don't know. 1 + 1 = 2? I don't know. Sorry, was that a little too real for you guys? A little too fucking on the nose?
Concern for monetization.
Well, let me just
out the window.
Just to loop back.
I just
want to make one quick comment.
Okay.
We're talking about, all the things people can't handle. People are not ready for Cream the Slug. That's the number one issue humanity's not ready for. I just had to throw that out there. I am sorry. Please continue.
You elided right in to the next quickie. It's from Weezer, who wants advice on how to cope with having a micropenis.
Jelk, do some stretches, man. There's, the internet's been around for a while. I'm not gonna tell you to break your dick, but there's guys that have gone, stolen the fire from the gods, so to speak. You're not at a totally disadvantaged, unhelpable position. So, or you can just or just accept it. I mean, that's my POV. If you have a problem, just kind of, go against God.
Sure.
No, I'm saying defy reality, defy nature. But you could also just get a healthy exception of it. I guess that's one way to do things.
I think that's the best you can do. That's all of that is you gotta just choose a path and run down.
Yeah, whatever you're gonna do, commit to it.
The last one.
That's all I was gonna say. You're right.
That's right.
I always forget what jelking is. What is that?
Well,
log into your Vsauce email and then start Googling. Make sure that you're signed into Google on the work account and start Googling.
Don't ever buy pills from the internet. Don't ever buy any horrible thing. But from what I've seen, from what I've heard, I mean, I never looked into it, but apparently it can work if you're really dedicated. It's like planting a seed and watering it, you know what I mean, constantly. This guy says went from 0.5 to 2.5 centimeters. Thanks, Nostalgia Critic. That's not the real Nostalgia Critic.
Oh, yeah, we got a good Wang video that's a tutorial. Yeah. But it would be funnier if it was. The last one is substantial. This is a real question. It's from Super Brothers. Supa is young and wants to be able to get a gig in the entertainment industry on the screenwriting creative side. What do you think is the best way, now that it's 2022, what's the best way to get your foot in the door? What should somebody do to prepare themselves for getting that foot in and then going all the way through the door? What can they do?
I wish I had a really, I apologize, that's my go-to answer. I wish I had a really clean answer. The way that I did it was very weird, where Michael and I pitched something and we're writing it and we're drawing and everything. I guess if I had to say, it would probably, I don't feel like it'd be all that different from, the way that both of us, Michael and I, got our YouTube started, and the way what you guys are doing right now, which is publishing your stuff online. If you have a really good idea for a script or a book or whatever, we live in the age of self-publishing and putting your stuff out there, and people just either react or they don't react. So I would recommend, honestly, and maybe there's better advice out there, I'm sure there is, from an actual screenwriter, but I feel like your best bet would be write a script, write multiple scripts, get a following, whether it's a short story or a book or whatever, and then pitch stuff around. Go, take stuff around the studios. I feel like, I think that's the best thing you could do. Is if you can notice, there's a lot of people that got, that were not well known, and they wrote stuff that was so compelling and so good that it went from, unknown piece of work to this huge overnight success. So write something you think is going to be compelling and then self-publish, I think.
All right. Well, I have one more question for you before we get into that, though. A couple of housekeeping things. We have a solid 3 weeks of guests coming up. We have Drew Durnell next week. We have Nerd Writer following Drew So Drew, Nerdwriter, and then Rusty Cage following Nerdwriter. So we have 3 awesome guests coming up in the next 3 weeks. Be sure to come back and hang out with us. Just join the Discord, start there, and to support the show, go to patreon.com/thecreateunknown. So final question is, I'm not expecting anything here, but I'd be remiss if I didn't put you on the spot and ask if there's anything at all you're willing and able to divulge, leak, or make exclusive to this episode about what's coming in season 2 of our show that we all love, Smiling Friends.
Well, like I always say, there's 2 of us, but I'll say something that I think that we're doing Comic-Con. By the time this is out, it probably won't be relevant. We're doing Comic-Con this week, Michael and I. We're doing Adult Swim Festival in August, so I'm sure we're going to divulge a little bit anyways, is my point in saying that. So I will say our goal with season 2 right now is to make it feel like the same show. We obviously want it to feel familiar and continuous, but we want to showcase the other characters more for sure. We have, I'd say we're about halfway done writing the show, which if that sounds like slow to people, just remember it's only 11-minute episodes, and luckily the good news is I think we'll be able to make it pretty quickly. But we have a pretty good idea of what the season's going to look like. I would say we have pretty much every episode figured out. And I guess if I was to give Annie one little fucking piece of information, I don't know if anyone even kind of thinks of it like this, but in season 1, we felt like we wanted to do a big Pim showcase episode and a big Charlie showcase episode. And Pim's episode was the Halloween one, and Charlie's was the episode 8, the Christmas one. So, following that logic, I don't even know how interesting this might sound. Maybe this is kind of what people expected, but I think you can expect a similar trend line with other characters in season 2. Just where maybe we give certain characters like maybe a showcase episode. But there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of ideas I think people are going to like in terms of, how do I say this? The same way that in season 1 we had stop motion and 3D, we're really going to try to, we're going to use some of that again because there's only so many art mediums out there. But we really want to experiment and make sure that feels like it's a key component of the show's DNA and not, move away from it. Actually, feel free to. What do you guys? What is the audience think? What do you two guys think? Was that as satisfying, or was that a nothing burger? Was that fucking empty?
No, it's good. Well, we have some people in the chat who are unsatisfied, but they're going to say that because they want
you want a
more
full
and more and more.
Here's the thing: if I pitched a full episode, you guys would go. You'd be picturing in your head. You'd be going, "That sucks." And you might be right, you might be wrong. But the point is, you have to wait until, if you explain any of the season 1 ideas, people go, what the fuck are you talking about? So be patient, trust the.
All right. Yeah. Well, here's an ancillary question that you probably can't answer, but I'm going to ask anyway. Well, where's the merch? Where are my plushies? Where's my Charlie backpack that I get to wear? What's going on there? That's got to be coming.
I want Glep underoos.
That is a great fucking question, and we have been
Mr. Boss diapers.
Unironically, I want all the weird shit. I want every weird fucking merch thing that we could do. We think about it every day. We let them know, like, hey, people are like making their own merchandise, not in a way where that's a bad thing, but just saying like people are so hungry for the stuff that they're making their own. Like let them give you money. They want to. So, I actually think the best thing you guys could do is just. Obviously, in a non-harassing way, just genuinely, if you guys are excited for merchandise, just in a tweet, in an Instagram comment, in a Facebook comment, YouTube, whatever. Again, without spamming, maybe ask for it if it's relevant. I think them seeing the numbers and seeing people hungry for it, I think helps. So it's the best thing you guys can do.
A Mr. Frog pool float has got to happen.
There's not only, we have the shit we've thought up that's already on the fucking list. I think people would be very excited. It scares some people would love it.
Well, I look forward to being scared and I look forward to loving it. I think those are kind of like the 2 reactions to sort of the pantheon of Psychic Pebbles, which is why we like you so much. This seems like an every 6 month sort of thing that we need to do. So, I will say a see you in January, Zach.
Hey, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's the only thing keeping me going. I would game end myself in Minecraft.
No, I love these conversations because
6 months.
Yeah, it's honestly great. Michael and I used to do the very positive stream stuff, and that was to get out with the talk. And really, and like I hope people feel interested in what we're talking about. I've got a feeling that they do. But it's an interesting. It's the best platform to really talk about a huge variety of things. So it's always a pleasure.
All right. Yeah, we didn't even get into, your 15 kids and your farm in Illinois.
Oh, that's next
to
time.
Follow up on that. Okay.
Oh, that's next time. That's a whole podcast.
Matt's
half
nut
of
farm.
them are going to be dead by then.
Oh, at least. That's what.
Yeah, 15 kids, so that 7 or 8 survive.
12 Jonathan, 7 Williams. Yeah, no, believe me.
Yeah, as long as one of the Zachs is still kicking, then you'll have somebody to till the field. All right, we're out of here. Thanks again for coming back, and join us next week. We have Drew Durnil and guests after guests lined up, solid bangers all summer long
shape
here on the Create Unknown. We are done for now. We have to rest our laugh muscles until next time. We will see you, Space Cowboys.
Thanks for listening to The Create Unknown. We make this show with the support of our patrons. 100% of that goes directly to keeping episodes going every week, and the recent support has been amazing. Sidpoke, NRM, Venture Addicts, Weezergood, you all really do make this show happen. Thank you to the Tots and Dumpster crew, old and new, who save tiny little lives every month. Thank you to our grizzled, battle-hardened child infantry. Clemente de los Santos, Dan the Latch, Demetrius Andrews, Erica, Ferrykun, Jen Mefasanti, Kevin Menard, Mikhail Steinke, Monahim, Natsu, Penny Piddler, Ryan Steer, Ryan Kinder, Samuel Manser, Sean S., Sean Malone, and Tom Bidioger. And a tremendous shout out to our elite baby gang commanders: Atrocious Guff, Kat, Dojangles, Graham Robertson, James Gallagher, Jeff Davis, Orange Vanilla Coke, Patrick Pister, TCU's personal pilot, Andy, Ryan Carroll, Baseweight, Vinthos, Yeetus Deletus, Jonas Walter, Nathan Robinson, Jelxies, and of course, Trevstead. You are the elite. Thank you as well to our indentured servants, producer-editor Ben Webster, Minecraft mogul Laterman, Discord kitten wrangler Conrad, and producer emeritus Dan Yosua. Thanks to Baseweight for use of Created in the Unknown for the opening theme. Thanks to Electro Voice for giving us mics to sound good on top of it. And a special thanks to Maingear for powering all of our PC endeavors. The Create Unknown is an Unknown Media production in partnership with Studio 71.